Make sure everything is up and running. 5x5. Let's hope. Hey everybody, welcome to Curmudgeon's Corner number 11. It's amazing that we're doing it. We could say that we're celebrating our birthday all month long. We got some really great guests on our show. Tonight is joining Eric Trainwreck Burkett of Internally Compelled. We it looks like we're starting to get a whole bunch of people coming into the house, so we'll give everybody some time to kind of show up and pour themselves a nice glass of apple juice, get comfortable, and we're going to talk about all kinds of things tonight. Obviously, Trainwreck is not much from the detailing world, which is great, because Curmudgeon's Corner isn't just about detailing, and it's not just about shamelessly promoting our own products. But he is a small business owner. He is a veteran. He has quite a pedigree when it comes to his accomplishments. So, Superado, that's right, apple juice. Richard Smith in the house. Eric, Richard Smith is probably your biggest fan. So, yeah, Richard Smith. He reaches out to me a couple of times a month, if not more, and he's always asking about you, always watching your Instagram stuff, always making comments that he thinks just that you're awesome. So, and as you can see, everybody seems to like him because he is a good dude. So anyway, we're still trying to work out the kinks as far as the live streaming is concerned. This is Eric's first live stream, and so we're just going to take things nice and easy and slow. We're open to pretty much all questions. If you guys have any, us Burkett boys, we never have any problem talking. So. But he's got some stuff going on in the morning, so we're not going to run real late. And Papa Smurf has already threatened me that if we even get close to the 4-hour mark, he's going to pull the power on my office. So we're definitely not going 4 hours. I doubt that we're going to hit 3. Most likely, it's going to be a nice 2 hours, but I think we can cover a lot of ground. So we'll give it like one more minute or so for everybody, and then we'll get into the Batman origin story, as I like to talk it, from people that are the first time on my show. So hey, Humberto, thank you so much for joining us. Rick Smith, welcome. Tim, Titan Tim, welcome. Superado, thanks for coming by. Keith Firebird. I think it's going to be a good show. So, without too much more ado, hey Eric, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, absolutely. So, I guess let's get started with the introductions, I suppose. I guess I've known you for about 49 years, I think. Not sure if I could still be used as a character reference, but I do know you for going on 5 decades. Rich Smith is a 3rd generation veteran. Thank you very much, Rich Smith. So what have you been up to? What's going on in your world right now?
Oh, besides drinking apple juice out of my Phoenix E.O.D glass.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
Bink.
Whatever. That's up there somewhere. I've been doing some guest speaking. I've been coaching. I've been shooting my bow. Just kind of been all over the place, doing a lot of different things. Helping guys out when and where I can. Yesterday I was, the starting guy for a local 5K here in Newcastle to support veterans issues here in Western PA. But just trying to be a positive impact on the world I live in.
All right. Well, so let's let's rewind that story a little bit and unpack it. Since this is the origin story, let's get people to know a little bit more about you. Um, if
They
I
know
rem-
me, brother.
if I remember the story correctly, and again, there's been a lot of apple juice between then and now. Um, if I remember the story correctly, you joined the army shortly, if not pretty much at the same time that I joined the army back in '94 ish, right? So then let's kind of the abridged version. You joined the army. You were a cable dog. What is a cable dog?
I was what we call a wire system installer. It was a 31 Lima. Nothing sexy about it at all. I ran behind a 2.5-ton truck or a 5-ton truck and ran tactical communications wire wherever they wanted communications wire. That mean if I had to dig it into the ground, I did. If had to climb a pole and hang it from a pole, I did. But lots of PT. It was a good job.
Yeah, and then so then you used what the Montgomery GI Bill to go back to college, and that's where you got you got a degree, correct?
That was the intent, but
Okay.
I went to Grove City College, which is a private Christian school in Western Pennsylvania, and they're one of 2 or 3 colleges in the whole United States that actually do not accept federal funding, even if it comes to me, whether it's a GI Bill or college loan repayment. So, kind of in a weird way, I ended up joining the army with the intent of, um, using the bonuses and benefits to pay for school, and then not being able to use them. I still finished college, still graduated, but yeah, those benefits now are all sitting in a pot, waiting for my children to use them.
Excellent. And then, so you got your degree, and then because you got your degree, you were able to transition over to the Marine Corps, going through their officer candidate school. Is that correct?
That's correct. Really kind of a rare opportunity. Thanks to our dad, um, who had a friend, Master Robinson, who at the time was working for Secretary of Defense Cohen. I was able to get a conditional release from the Army. And the release was I didn't have to fulfill my obligation to the Army if I did earn a commission in the Marine Corps. That it would just get absorbed into all that, and I would finish out my time in the Marine Corps.
Awesome. And when did you know, like throughout this whole, I mean, I know that dad was a pilot in the Marine Corps. And I remember your room in California. It was just wall to wall, everything and anything military. There was a awesome sniper poster, a Marine recon sniper, I think, in the full ghillie suit, and then you had the jets and the missiles and all that stuff. And my room was lined with Arnold Schwarzenegger posters. So I know that you probably had a lot of influence from dad. Hey, Chris Green, welcome. Thanks for coming by. Um, um, when did you know that you wanted to be a pilot?
I didn't know if I wanted to be a pilot. Honestly, it was just it was being a Marine in general, which was always my goal. And Dad would often say, "Hey, don't be a Marine," because I was a Marine. Um, and I would tell him, "Well, it's not really about you. It's how I think, or why I think God put me on this planet, and that was to be a Marine." And that's kind of how, like, when you look at my whole big story, going to school, getting kicked out of school, joining the Army, going to reserves, finishing school, that I just gotten kicked out of, getting reaccepted into a school that I had just gotten kicked out of, coming back, finishing, and then getting a conditional release from the Army to go to the Marine Corps. I mean, it's completely non-typical, and I would venture to say it was unique. But it goes to just the idea that God intended me to be a Marine. So, and I went into the Marine Corps under an open contract, which 90% of it, 99% of it probably would have been ground jobs. I did very well early on, and I was one of 2 guys out of 220-ish young Marine lieutenants to pick up an aviation slot.
Wow.
So it was it was crazy. In fact, I didn't know I wanted to go aviation, and the slot was there, and I looked at it, and I was like, I've spent a lot of time running around on the ground, and I've watched those guys in helicopters and planes fly by, and I always knew that they were going back to the O Club, or they're going to go back and take a hot shower and sleep in a bed, and I'm going to be out here in the dirt, sleeping and hoping not to get bit by something. But
Right.
so it's kind of like, yeah, I'll never know if I don't try. So I did, and in a weird sort of turn of events, the Marine Corps actually gave me orders, in addition to going to flight school, to go to infantry officers course, which kind of shockingly enough, I guess, as a second lieutenant, they weren't expecting me to refuse orders, and I did, and it was I don't know, there was a lot of second and third order effects from that decision, but I ended up going down to Pensacola and going to flight school and earning my wings of gold.
So, what was what aircraft did you fly?
Initially, I started out flying the CH-46 Sea Knight, also known as the Battle Frog. It's like a mini Chinook. In fact, I have a model of one I could grab and throw in front of the camera if you wanted. But yeah, 40-plus-year-old platform.
That's the helicopter that kind of looks like a telephone with the propellers on both ends. I know all these things. I'm just doing this for your benefit.
There it is. There it is. So, like a little mini Chinook. You see them on TV, but they're out of service now. But that's what I went. I flew, did a deployment to the Middle East on one. Cut my teeth in Iraq on combat deployment, and then did a second deployment with the Marine Corps to Al Assad, Iraq. It was a ground job. I was working in the Tactical Air Control Center, which was really exciting as far as Hey Semper Fi, which was really exciting as far as being a ground side job as a pilot. And then got back from that, transitioned to the Osprey, which is still the world's sexiest aircraft as far as I'm concerned.
It's you've seen it in almost every movie now that has any kind of military operation. So
it's because it's so sexy. I mean, what's not sexy about that? Come in, bring nacelles up, land like a helicopter, take off, and then fly like a bat.
Hold on, I gotta stop you right there. And this is totally derailing the conversation. However, what you just said there about landing like a helicopter, there was many a times that you and I were corresponding with each other while you were deployed overseas, and you went to a lot of different places, and you were deployed in a lot of different places. Tell me about the Trainwreck approach.
The Trainwreck approach. Okay, so
this is a great story. I love this story.
Afghanistan. This is later on in the career. Kind of a weird story how I got there. But I was still transitioning to the Osprey and in the training command when I got a call from a buddy that said, "Hey, you still want to go to Afghanistan?" And I said, "Of course I do. What self-respected Marine would want to deploy?" And he said, "Well, Colonel Bianca over at 261 wants you to go with him to Afghanistan." And I was like, "Wait a second, aren't those guys leaving next month?" And he said, "They sure are, but that doesn't mean anything to Colonel Bianchi. He still wants you." And I said, "Well, I still got like 2 months of training left." And he goes, "Yep, you sure do. And once that's done, you're going to join them in Afghanistan." So that's what happened. I finished up the RAG, or the training squadron there, 204, and stuck around, was kind of their remain behind, dealing with all the squadron space turnover, all that administrative stuff. And then once I was finished, actually, I landed at Camp Leatherneck at Bastion in Helmand Province, Afghanistan, on December 26th at like 1:30 in the morning. I spent Christmas Day flying on a C-17. We landed in a Haboob. It was a sandstorm. It was craziness. But anyway, I get there, and I don't know. I was in my element. I joined the Marine Corps to deploy and to just, I don't know, suck the life out of that type of a lifestyle. And anyway, long story short, to answer your question, the Trainwreck approach, and
So
Trainwreck.
if I remember correctly, you told me that it was like in the highlight of the poppy season where these quote unquote farmers were, growing poppy, and what the derivative of that comes from the poppy seed. So they're very protective of said poppy fields. And
Well,
that anytime you guys were coming in,
our place. So the poppy was along the Helmand River Valley, which in the springtime is amazing. Everything that you would think that like the old Wizard of Oz was, with like looking over fields and fields and fields of just beautiful flowering plants. That's what flying over the Helmand River Valley looked like in the spring. It was amazing. But we were farther north, and this was more summertime. I had become a more seasoned pilot, and we were flying into Sfab, Musikela. We were dropping off some supplies to the British that were kind of, pretty much in a crummy little spot. They're in this built-up area. It's bad guy country all the way around. There was a little souk, which is an open-air market, right up against their perimeter wall, which complicated things. And the LZ is inside this like a mud-walled area that was outside an old British-made hotel. Well, the day before, some guys flew that same mission, or they flew a mission that required a single ship into there. They came in, and when they came home, there was a couple holes in the aircraft, and nobody likes having bullet holes in your aircraft. And then I was assigned the mission the next day, and it's one of those deals where it's like, hey, here we are. We're going to go do the same exact thing we did the day before, to the same exact place. They already got bullet holes in the plane, so they have an idea of what they need to do to hit us. Maybe maybe they'll be a little bit better, more organized, better prepared, and certainly better educated today. So I was flying with a really good crew, and I was actually the co-pilot on that flight. I hadn't made aircraft commander yet, but for whatever reason, I was left at the controls, and I just remember thinking, all right, we're not going to get shot today. We're not very heavy. Let's try to do something, and push the limits of this aircraft, and not get shot. That was the intent, not to get shot. So the normal approach is 3 miles out. You're going about 220 knots, and you're 300 feet. You start pulling power, and you go through this progression to slow the aircraft down, decrease altitude, and land on a spot. It's called a confined area landing, or a CAL. Well, that was the normal parameters. This day, instead of 3 miles out, we were closer to inside of 2, somewhere between 1.7 and 1.8 miles out. We were also going a little bit faster. We were about 230 knots when we started, and we were lower. We started out at 200 knots. Again, the intent was get in quick, don't give them a chance to react, get the stuff out the back, and then get out of there. And before I started this, I just kind of said, "Hey guys, I need you to trust me." And then I told the guy that was on the tail gun, "Hey, call me when my tail's clear of the wall." I told Chris, keep me honest as far as my left or right. And literally, I was inside on the glass the majority of the time, watching the instruments of the aircraft and trying to decelerate this Osprey, and still make the landing. And I remember, the crew chief cussing me out because he was, it was pretty aggressive maneuver. We stood the Osprey up on its tail basically, and used those big rotors as a brake. And then as we got over the wall, we just basically, I gave the nose back to it and just let it flop down onto the ground, and it all worked out. And then shortly thereafter, the Weapons and Tactics School released an approach called the Quick Stop, and I'd like to think that I was the guy that
changed
started.
the course forever.
So that's the kind of, I wanted it to be called the Trainwreck, but that probably wouldn't go over so well.
Well, I
You
mean,
didn't even tell them why the
probably, like there's lots of different in every industry, in every field, there is the technical name, and then of course there is the the
street name.
slang name, and I'm sure the slang name still gets thrown around a little bit. So all of that was said and done. This is probably going to transition into the next conversation piece. At the end of every correspondence that you and I had via either email or handwritten letter, I'd always write to you,
Don't get dead.
"Don't get dead." That's how I would sign every letter. "Don't get dead," and I remember. I remember Mom and Dad had come to visit me in my old apartment. Um, they'd come to visit my old apartment, and Dad had already gone to bed, and I was up talking with Mom, and we got a phone call. Man, I'll never forget it. We got a phone call, and I don't know if it was like if they called Dad's phone, and he had left it in the living room with us, or if he had called Mom's phone, or if he had called my phone because I was a point of contact, like three or four people down the lane. But I remember answering the phone. I want to say it was Dad's phone, and he wanted to talk to Lieutenant Colonel Burkett. Hey, this is Quantico. This is Staff Sergeant such and such and such and such from Quantico. I need to talk to Lieutenant Colonel Burkett. And I woke up Dad and I gave him the phone, and he closed the door, and he came out. I don't know how long. He came out and he said that Eric was involved in a crash, and they're trying to get him to Germany right now. His plane crashed in Africa. That was a long night, and I remember it. There's not a lot of things that I have clarity on, but that was one of them.
More apple juice.
More apple juice. So, I'm searching. I immediately jump on the internet and I'm searching everything that I can possibly find about a V-22 crash in Africa, and there's nothing, obviously, because it's breaking news. You know what I mean? The Quantico just contacted family, and then I guess over the course of the next week, they got you home. They got you home, and they brought you to Walter Reed Medical down in Bethesda. And I believe that you spent the next 5 years there, 4 years there. I've met a lot of really cool people down at Walter Reed because of you and because of what you were staying there, and people that I developed really good friendships with, and you see a lot of things that you probably never ever would see unless you go to the fourth floor at Walter Reed. Heartbreaking stories, but you also see a lot of really triumphant stories as well. At least the beginnings of a triumphant story, because the true triumph happens after you get out. But probably the greatest impact that place had on me. You remember the music corps that Tim got into,
Yep.
and then they were doing some shows with Roger Waters, and I got to meet Roger Waters through Tim. He invited me to all of his shows and things of that nature, and he was part of what's called the music corps. And one of the cool things that I know about Walter Reed and the development is they try to re-engage the wounded warriors with things that they loved from before their injury, trying to re-engage them in their life, trying to shake off the depression and get them re-engaged that their life isn't over. And one of the really again the most heartfelt impact that I had on me, I was at one of their shows, and I believe it was one of the guitarists. He was able to play a guitar without an elbow, and you know what I mean. And he basically he would strum the guitar by raising his shoulder up and down. And when the show starts, everybody's allowed to introduce themselves, and they're talking about who they are and what happened and so on and so forth. And the thing that he said to me the most was, in America, especially when patriotism is really, really strong and really, really, there's a real patriotic sense throughout the nation. Everybody, who joins the service is always like, I have no problem laying down my life for my country. I will give up my life for my country. And he's like, but nobody ever said, would you be irreparably maimed for your country? Nobody ever asked that question. And that's a tough one. Irreparably maimed for your country. But then you take it one step further to Tim. And Tim met his wife at Walter Reed. Tim met Roger Waters and got involved in the music corps, and has toured around the world and done all of these things. Because of his injuries, these doors were open to him. And I said to him, I remember it was the day after that Roger Waters concert that we all got to hang out with Roger Waters backstage, and we were back at his apartment, and I said to him, if you had it to do all over again, not get hurt, or the life that you have now, what would you pick? And he goes, I would pick the life that I have now, hands down, every day. I most certainly would do that. So that was unbelievably impactful. And in that, in the course of that weekend, it's life changing. The perspective, if you will. So, lighter news, a lighter story. One of the things that I would also say to you in all of your letters would be like, when you get back home, I'm going to take you out for steak and a beer. Steak and a beer.
Steak and a beer. That's right.
Steak and a beer. So you arrive at Walter Reed. You are all kinds of jacked up, but you're making pretty good progress. At the time, you were making pretty good progress, and your doctor gave you a floor pass. He allowed you he allowed you to leave the floor. He gave you that I think he said that you were allowed to go downstairs to the ground. You're allowed to something. I forget.
No.
Okay,
I think I know where you're going with this, but you came to my room.
Yeah.
He said, when's the last time you've been out of the hospital? And I said, I've only been out of the hospital once. And they let me leave the room for about an hour. And my wife, Melissa, took me downstairs. And we went out and just went outside to feel the fresh air. And we're probably 6 weeks that I was inpatient before they let me do that. And it was probably, I don't know, you came down on the weekend. So that you came down on a Friday night, and this one, I might've been out Tuesday before that. And I wasn't even outside that long. I remember it was just really hot, kind of humid because it was in the afternoon there at Walter Reed. And I went back in, but I didn't have, I hadn't been downstairs to the big chow hall. I hadn't been to different places. If I got food outside of what like you get from hospital food, it was somebody brought something to me, really. And then you show up and you're like, hey, when's the last time you've been out of this hospital? And I was like, I haven't. And he's like, you want to get out of here? And I was like, yep. And I'd been there long enough to watch them hook and unhook my IV lines and stuff. So I don't know if you remember, but you helped me unhook and tape them off. And
oh yeah,
um,
years of paramedic training or EMS training set us up for this very well.
You stole one of those crappy little hospital wheelchairs. And I remember I put on a kilt because it was easy for me to roll over and put a kilt on. So I put on a kilt, grabbed a shirt, slid into this chair. Like, I mean, I was not walking. They literally sewn my legs on. When I say literally sewn my legs back on, you saw them. I mean, they were, I had a erector set holding my legs on. And you got me into that chair and you wheeled me out, down the hall. Didn't say goodbye to anybody. Just got to the elevator, went downstairs to the lobby, right out the front door, and we just kept going and right through the front gate.
Through the front gate, past the guards and everything.
And then you pushed me past the NIH and then right down. And we didn't know where we were going. We didn't know, we didn't have a map or an idea or anything. It was just like, it was this crazy adventure where my brother is pushing me. If anything would have happened, I was stuck. And because I wasn't,
did happen.
I wasn't walking. Something did happen. How far do you want me to take it?
Yeah, all the way. Let's go.
So we finally get down like this one little road. We're inside downtown Bethesda now. It's a big giant world out there, and I'm terrified because literally, if a sixth grader came up with a stick, I wouldn't have been able to defend myself. And we see that with a harp and fiddle, the Irish pub, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is like the perfect place.
It's exactly like it was destiny.
It was destiny. So we go to cross the road. We're finally there. And don't get me wrong, this isn't like right outside Bethesda. We're 3/4 of a mile, maybe a mile away from the hospital. He's pushing me in this crappy hospital wheelchair. It's just designed for going up and down halls. And we start crossing this street, and it's a cobblestone street. And the front,
it was that hotel. That hotel had those weird, stupid
cobblestone things.
Yeah, that hotel. And as we went over those cobblestones, the front wheels of this wheelchair completely disintegrated. So I ended up popping you into a wheelie position and riding you the last 45 yards on the big wheels on the back
through traffic. Yeah. And then we got there and they're like, hey, you got a reservation, it's Friday night, it's hopping. Hey, how about that picture? So they've got a seat for us, and we actually sat outside right there like it's showing. And we had a great night.
We had an absolutely fantastic night. You weren't on any medication at all, zero medication, nor did we have any kind of alcohol at all.
No alcohol, none for sure.
No alcohol, none of that stuff. But we had a nice steak dinner. Yep. The owner of the bar of the establishment just absolutely was enamored with you, and the people that sat beside us ended up paying for the meal without us even knowing it. Like they paid and left.
Remember, they were part of a nonprofit that would come in on Sunday afternoons and bring food to the guys on the fourth floor. And I didn't know them, I didn't recognize them, but I know that people had brought food from their concession to my room. I had just never been there. It was It was nuts. We had a great time. And then it was like the reality hit, like, are you going to have to wheelie me all the way back to Walter Reed? Oh my goodness. And then it was the owner of the restaurant. He said, hey, the Marines have a duty driver. And I was like, what? Because like, I've never been out of the hospital. This is all new. This is crazy. We did zero planning. So I called the duty up, and it's Sergeant Cunningham. I'll never forget the guy. I don't know, misunderstood Marine. But anyway, he answered the phone, and he's like, hey, sir, what's going on? Where are you at? And I'm like, oh, I'm out in town. And he's like, what? You're out in town? What do you mean you're out in town? I was like, well, I'm out in town, and the wheelchair's broken. Is there any way you can come get me?
Pick me up.
So this Marine shows up with one of those ADA compliant vans that's got the big arm that comes out and picks up wheelchairs, and he took us back, and holy smokes. No abuse, no teasing, no reports filed, mad props to Sergeant Cunningham. Hey, if you're out there, Sergeant Cunningham, man, keep killing it. Yeah, I owe you. So, get there. And I forget, you went back to the Navy Lodge or wherever you were spending the night. But I show up, I get back on the 4th floor, come off the elevator, and it's after 11 o'clock now, and everything's dark except for like emergency lighting and the nurses station. And I start creeping down the hall in my wheelchair as best that I can. And what was her name? It was my Watkins. It was Lieutenant Watkins was standing there in the hall, and she was silhouetted from the light coming off the nursing station. And she looked like a superhero. She's got the power stance. Her hands were on her hips. And I could just see, and I could just feel like, the fire coming out of
just her silhouette. It's just her silhouette and the lights behind her.
Yep. And she's in uniform too. She's in her utility uniform. And boots. So she's looking 100% badass. And I just remember going, where have you been, sir? Sir. And I was like, I went to go get something to eat. She's like, Oh, you didn't go to the chow hall? Because I checked the chow hall, and you weren't down on Main Street where there's like a little food court, because I checked that place too. And then I checked the logbook where you might sign out, and there was no sign out slips. And then I checked with the doctors to see if they'd given you a pass. And guess what? There was no pass. And I said, okay, hey, I did. I went out in town. I didn't ask permission. I just did it. Who do I got to go see? I figured I was done. And she looked at me and she goes, well, you're by far the most senior person on deck, so you might as well, just hang out. And I was like, well, if I'm the most senior guy on my deck on this floor, I'll be in my room if you need me. I'm surprised she didn't put air bubbles in my IV line that night, but she was so upset. But dude, it was legendary. It was legendary.
Dude, seriously. Like,
next day, people were saying, hey, did you seriously go sneak out in town? And I was like, yep. And you need to go to, I think it was Harp and Fiddle, wasn't it? Harp and Fiddle?
Yeah, that was the name of it, the Harp and Fiddle.
Yeah, what a chow was great.
Fantastic. It was fantastic. The environment was perfect. The outdoor seating, the guys couldn't have been more accommodating. Absolutely fantastic. And we told that story. That's one of the all-time greatest heists ever. Just, I sprung my brother out of the hospital for
it was like short of armed guards being there to keep me in. It was a jailbreak.
Yeah, it was awesome. It
was stupid. Yeah.
So, so I guess then that kind of segues or dovetails into the next segment, if you will. So again, as they're trying to re-engage you into things that you used to be engaged in before the accident, trying to get you to re-engage in your former life. If I remember the story correctly, and I think that I do, before all of this went down, before you got into the crash and all of that stuff, You were third overall in the state of Pennsylvania for archery. If I remember correctly, you were like, "Oh, I ranked third in archery in the state of Pennsylvania."
Before I got hurt?
Yeah, before you got hurt. I'm
No.
almost positive. I'm
I
almost positive. I can tell you I am positive. I wrote it down in my diary. Dear diary, today Eric told me that he ranked third in
well,
Pennsylvania.
I did. I don't remember it because that was a long time ago with a lot of Oxycontin and a lot of apple juice. But I did shoot. I shot a lot, especially after deployments. I would shoot my bow. I played rugby. That was my sport. I don't know if you remember that or not, but
I do remember that. You played for the Marine Corps team.
I did a couple years. And then
How much of a badass do you have to be to play rugby, which in itself is one of the most brutal sports that I know of, let alone for the Marine Corps? It's got to be just the worst.
Is it badass or is it just like dumb? I don't know.
I'm sure you guys you could get hit with a hammer and you guys wouldn't know it.
I remember one of our guys that's got his ear ripped off in a match. We were down playing in Pensacola. Literally, his ear was hanging from like his earlobe. Everything else had been separated from his head. And he was insisting that if we just taped it up, it was good to play. True story. True story. Boo Brown, if you're out there, chime in, back me up. It's a true story.
Just tape my ear back to my head and get me back in there.
And the crazy thing was, and he was a black guy, and after you get through that first couple layers of skin, it's just like white pigment, and it was white and red, and his ears hanging down like by his neck. And the paramedics are like, "Dude, sit still. We need to get you to the hospital." And he's like, "Look, just tape me up. I'll be fine." So anyway,
animals. You guys are animals.
Animals. We had a good time, but it's an incredible visceral sport, and if it's just, I would say it's as close to combat as you're going to get without actually shooting people.
All right, so I have to back up, and I should have I completely screwed this order up. Real fast, where does the name Trainwreck come from? Because I mean, everybody and anybody that knows you now would assume that it's because you are just a train wreck of a person.
Well, nothing's changed. That's the thing. So I show up to my first fleet squadron, early 2003. I had just missed the big kick, where we launched the Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003. The squadron that I had been assigned to actually was overseas in Iraq, and they were coming home, and I was back in the rear waiting for them, which was like absolute torture. So to keep me busy, they asked me if I wanted to go to school. Of course, I said, sure, I'll go to school. And then they said, hey, SEER School's open. You want to go to that? I'm like, heck yeah, I want to go to SEER School. So I go to SEER School. I end up, even as a first lieutenant, I end up being the senior ranking officer for my class. And the same kind of mindset that I take with life, I took with SEER School. I was going to get the most out of it, take it seriously, and maximize the experience. Well, as a result, there was a pretty cool debrief, and there were some things that had been done that were unprecedented in previous or in the history of SEER School that I did. But when it was all said and done, somebody at SEER School had called back and talked to the sergeant major about me, the sergeant major that was falling in on the squadron. So when I did come home from SEER School, the squadron had just been back. Most of them were on block leave, but the sergeant major calls me in his office and he's like, hey, I heard you're a mental case. What's going on? And I was kind of like, hey, I don't know. Just trying to do my job, as best I can, play the game. And so that kind of started it, like, who is this crazy guy that, is just willing to get, turned inside out, for school. And and that was me. So let me think.
I remember you and I having this conversation about like when you were going through flight school, and they were talking about basically selecting, and I had said you should go for Anvil.
Oh, for call signs, yeah.
Yeah, for call signs. And I said you should go for Anvil because you were a farrier, and for those who don't know what a farrier is, it is a blacksmith for horses.
A horseshoer.
Yeah, and since that was as far as I'm concerned, that was your first profession. You went to school for that and everything, so you were a farrier, and I was just like, you should be Anvil. I mean, you obviously are going to fly like you're throwing a brick through space. You might as well be Anvil.
Well,
And
I mean,
next
the thing
thing you
about
know,
call sign is you don't pick your own call sign, and the guys that do are absolute turds. And really, honestly, the call sign was the farthest thing from my mind. You know, I was just I was where I wanted to be, and what's my favorite barbecue meal? Really, I was where I wanted to be, and I was just enjoying it. I mean, when guys say, how was your day, or how are you doing? I'm living the dream. I was literally living the dream, living the dream. No, I never got kicked by a horse. I'd been bit by a horse. I'd been stepped on a couple times, but in the 7.5 years that I shot horses, I never got kicked by a horse. But I was living the dream. I was having a great time. Like seriously, there wasn't any aspect of my job that just wasn't exciting. So whatever. I mean, I wasn't thinking about call signs. I was just like, what's the next adventure? What's the next thing I can do? And one of the things that I was going to do is I was going to go get married. So shortly after I got home from SEER school, I got leave. I went out and met this girl. We packed up. We went to her hometown, and she started hanging out with some of her old friends, and they were doing some things. And the morning of the wedding, I remember her aunt coming out and giving me this like eyeball, and I was like, huh. And it was like, well, maybe I had to go see what's going on. So sure enough, long story short, this young lady has some real concerns, and she ends up saying something along the lines of, well, I'm not sure this is the right thing to do. And I said, well, if you're not sure, I'm not sure. So I went out, told Mr. Goodrich what was up, and thought I was going to get killed. But anyway, long story short, I ended up going back to the squadron, still a single guy.
how have I never heard this story before?
I don't know.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding
Dad
me right
was
now?
part of it. Dad was
What?
part of it. Dad was part of it. Dad picked me up at the airport in Cleveland, still a bachelor. Yeah.
What?
Hey.
We're going to have words after the show. This is going to be fun.
Hey.
Post game wrap up.
Cheers. Anyway, so yeah, I show up at the squadron, and the XO, first thing, the executive officer, the number 2 guy in the squadron says, hey, Burkett, when are we going to meet your new bride? And I was like, well, funny thing, sir, I'm not married. So, kind of unpacked it a little bit there in front of him, and he's just like, man, seriously, the morning of the wedding, you guys called it off? And I was like, yeah.
Wow. I mean, I remember you getting run over by your own truck by some chick, but I never knew anything about you almost getting married the day of.
Yeah, dude, ask Dad. Ask Dad.
I'm gonna have to. Like, it makes
so
much more sense of why he doesn't like you anymore as his firstborn. I get it. I get it now. What?
So anyway, I'm living life to the fullest, but I didn't want to make any more mistakes than I need to. So I get home. I've got this big house. I'm living in it. Life is good. Trying to think, what was the next thing that happened? Oh, so one of the things that happens, at least in the Marine Corps that I grew up in, maybe
I became the Prime Minister of Canada. Oh, you didn't know? Sorry.
You can let me tell the story, or are you going to?
Yeah, go ahead.
You don't know.
I'm still rocking in my boots from that. Wow.
So anyway, one of the things that lieutenants do when they check into a squadron is they got to go down to flight line, which is where all the air crewmen are at, and you get stacked. For those of you that don't know what stacked is, it's like a pig pile with punches. And it was me and another lieutenant, a female. She, was from Australia, just an amazingly tough, hard woman. So she comes by my office and she's like, "Hey, Burkett, we went through flight school together. So I'd known her for years. Anyway, she's like, "Hey, let's go downstairs and get this over with." So I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." So we end up going downstairs. We're walking through the hangar on our way to the flight line to get stacked. And there's what they call a stall jack, which is when an aircraft is up on jacks, they rope it off with these big like posts to hold the rope up. So I grab one of these posts, and it's about 4 feet long, steel rod on a metal base, like big square base. And I pick one up and I throw it over my shoulder. And I walk into flight line behind her. Now, when you get into flight line, of course, all the guys are sitting around there, and they've got a big, like, helicopter H landing pad painted in the middle of their floor. And it's kind of like this sign of respect not to stand on it. So what do? I walk right in and I stand on it. Of course, when Rachel and I were there together, they knew we were there for a reason, and that was to get stacked. And then when I stood on their sacred H or whatever you want to call it, it was fight on. I mean, it was fights on. It was nuts. And I remember this big guy, Sergeant DeGeorge, who ended up becoming an officer, but he was probably the biggest Marine that I'd seen to date. And he looks at me and he says, and he sees the stall jack over my shoulder, and he says, "What's that for?" And I said, "Oh, this little thing? This is for you." And I just toss it to him. So as he goes to catch this thing, and it's got some weight to it, it's probably 20, 25 pounds. As he goes to catch this big metal bar that I just threw at him and puts his hand up, I just rush in behind him, and I basically give him a big, football shoulder right to the gut. And then it was on like doggy. I don't think anybody ever touched Rachel because there was so much attention directed to me. And I mean, it was complete bedlam. The last thing that I know for sure how it wrapped up was Sergeant George had me around the neck and was trying to squeeze the life out of me. And I was upside down in his arms. And the other Marines had me pinned up, like my feet were up over his head, up against this wall locker. And I was just getting body shots over and over again. I was purple for weeks.
What is wrong with you people? Oh my gosh.
This is Sparta, baby. And I just remember thinking there's only one way to get out of this, and I've got to get free of DeGeorge. So I reached back like this and I grabbed his junk and I tried to scramble his eggs and twist his I mean everything I could. So now the biggest man in our squadron is screaming in pain, drops me to the ground. He falls to the ground. Everybody falls on top of us, is punching. And then I remember Captain Kaufman, Jason Kaufman, a great guy, screaming, "That's it. That's enough," and pulling bodies apart. I mean, it was insane. So that was like the second thing that happened. Of course, the rumor gets out, or the word gets out that this just went down. That I just went in and basically picked a fight with all the flight line, which is crazy. So anyway, everybody's like, "Man, who does that?" So that happens.
Animals do that.
Yeah, animals do that for sure. A motorcycle accident in my yard. 2 guys tried breaking into my house one night. I get them cut.
That's a great story, by the way. I don't know if we have time for it tonight, but that is a fantastic story. I'm gonna tell the story from what I remember you telling me, and I could be completely wrong, and I don't care. But this is the way that I remember it. Basically, end of the day, there's these 2 clowns that are trying to break into your back door, and they're trying to jimmy the lock and whatnot. And one of them doesn't know it, but they're leaning on the doorbell. And so they keep going blim, 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 as they're trying to break in. And I remember you telling the story, and you're like, "Man, I was like, these guys are trying to break into my house. Oh my, I don't know."
I was thinking, if there's kids ding dong at the door, I'm going to murder somebody.
This is my story. I'm telling it. So you were like, I kind of got this kind of I don't know what I'm going to do kind of scenario in my then I go, wait a second, I'm a Marine and I have weapons. So then you load up a shotgun and you walk halfway down your back stairwell. And if I remember correctly, your back stairwell kind of came into that area that the back door was at. And then you called 911. And the greatest part of this whole story is, hey, I got these two clowns that are trying to break into my back door. If they open up the door before you get here, you're going to be picking up two dead bodies. So get here as fast as you can.
If I hang up the phone before the police get here, send an ambulance. That's what I said.
Hang up the phone before the police get here. Send an ambulance. It's so awesome. It's such a great story. Anyway, so yeah, that was the fast forward version of that song. Good stuff. Anyway, wait a second. I'm a Marine. I have weapons. All right. Scenario has changed. All right. So anyway, so this whole thing is because I asked you how you got your call sign Trainwreck. And
So a couple more things happen. All right. So I'm at my office, or in my office, I'm doing my work, and my phone rings, and it's the head coach for All Marine Rugby. And he's like, dude, how come I haven't gotten your resume yet? I said, well, the reason is because the CO said that anybody's doing anything extracurricular because we're getting ready to deploy. Can't go. And he's like, who's your CO? I said, oh, it's Colonel Thacker. And he hangs up the phone. About 2 hours later, the adjutant comes down the hall, and he's like, hey, the CO wants to see you. Roger that. I walk down the hall. Hey, sir, Lieutenant Burkett reporting his order. He's like, Burkett, get in here, sit down. Why is the commanding officer of the Marine Weapons and Tactics School calling me and telling me that I'm all screwed up because I'm not letting you play rugby for the Marine Corps? And I said, sir, I don't have an answer for that, but I will tell you this, that the coach called and said, or he wanted my resume, and I told him I wasn't going to give it to him because you said we weren't playing anything other than getting ready for, going to war. And he said, well, I'm kind of in a dilemma, da-da-da-da-da. Promise me one thing. And I said, what's that, sir? And he said, promise me you won't get hurt. Of course. I said, I promise.
No one's ever been hurt in rugby. Hey, where's that tape at? I got to put my ear back on.
Yeah. So I ended up going to play with All Marine. It was a good trip. We ended up in Everett, Washington. There's a big Navy base up there. It's USA Military Nationals or something. But all the services are there, and we're playing against the Air Force, which, if anybody knows, there's a lot of hate and discontent between the Marine Corps and the Air Force.
What?
And yeah, I know. It's like you're not even a service. You're more like a country club that gets to fly fancy.
Anybody that's in the Air Force, we do appreciate your service, and we thank you very much for serving. Thank you very much. Oh, you were saying?
Anyway, so the Air Force is lame. But we're playing them, right? So anyway, for those of you familiar with rugby, is a penalty, and I take it quick, and everybody's offsides except for one of their fly halves, who I catch completely flat-footed, and I go into him with a head of steam. I just crush this kid. He doesn't wrap. He folds. I pick up the ball again. I go into the second contact, and that's when I realized that I've hurt my shoulder. I ended up separating my collarbone at the sternum, which is kind of painful. So I'm sitting there and I'm getting up, and they blow the ball, or the ref blows the ball dead, and awards a minute. And a minute is given to someone that's been injured on the field and allows them to make an assessment, to get up, catch their breath, stop the bleeding, different things like that. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why they were calling a minute for me. And then I see the other guy that the Air Force, the winger that I just hit, and so I'm hurt. I don't know that it's the extent of it, but I'm hurt pretty good. I know that I'm going to be done playing. But the kid that I hit, actually he was another pilot that I hit. I broke his sternum, 2 of his ribs, and punctured his lung. So it's not funny because who knows, that clown. Anyway, he deserved it. So anyway, I'm off on the sidelines. Planes continued. I got my arm in a sling. There's ice on it, and a fight breaks out right on the sideline there. And I ended up getting ejected from the field because I still got one good arm, and I'm throwing punches. And I came off the bench, so I had to.
Oh my God.
So I ended up coming back to the squadron,
How
and
am I related to you? I don't even know.
I can't fly. The CO's pissed. The OPSO's pissed. So I get like a month of duty until I'm cleared to fly. Every day, I'm sitting the ODO desk, the operations duty officer desk. When anybody's flying, there's got to be a guy at the desk. That was me. And then on the weekends, I was in there standing squadron duty officer. And I mean, it was, I would say, completely justified. I did hurt the squadron as far as their readiness. I wasn't getting the calls that I needed to get, and just kind of complicating life in general there at the squadron, unintentionally. But anyway, that was the end result of that. Shortly thereafter, though, I'm cleared now to fly. I'm playing rugby for the base, Camp Lejeune, and on Thursday nights after practice, we called it a stink and drink. We'd go to the local pub after practice. We'd still be in our kit, and we'd be pretty smelly usually. And there was a guy there that was talking trash about Marines, and he was really targeting. This is a civilian targeting one of the guys, this kid that we called the boy. He was an 03. He was a grunt. He was an incredibly tough young man, but we called him the boy because he had this really boyish face. He probably so much so that he still doesn't shave to this day. This is over 20 years ago now. Well, the boy's like, hey man, da 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 da, just go easy. And the guy's like, man, you guys, aren't really that tough. It's marketing. It's this, belief that the American public is brought in, but Marines really aren't that tough. They're no tougher than anybody else. And I remember the boy saying, look, dude, if you don't like Marines, that's cool. We're just rugby players in here trying to have a beer. And the guy was like, oh, you must really be tough. You're Marines and rugby players. You must be the toughest of the tough. And just won't let it go. And finally, I go to stand up, and my buddy Brian McHugh like grabs me and he's like, don't do it. Because I did have a problem with putting my hands on people. Even as an officer, I still would get in trouble for doing dumb stuff. Anyway, so fighting wasn't, out of the question for me. So anyway, I said, no, I'm not going to touch him. So I go over and I've got $50 in my pocket, and I put it down on the table and I said, hey, dude, let's match this $50. If you can match the $50, I'll give you 5 shots. If you can knock me down to 5 punches, you can keep the money and keep talking stuff. If you can't, then I keep the money and you can shut the hell up. So after swearing that nobody's going to touch him, that I'm not going to touch him, that I'm not going to move, blah, 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 his little hooker of a girlfriend was yelling, fuck him out. You can take this guy, knock him out. Da, da, da. So anyway, first punch, guy hits me right here on the side of the head.
What's wrong with you?
So I'm just standing there. I'm standing in front of him. I've got my hands cupped over my junk. First punch hits me in the side of the head. Pretty good punch. Not enough nearly to knock me down, but whatever. The second punch, he punches me down here, like just below the chest. And I just remember thinking, what in the world was he trying to do? Was he swinging for my solar plexus and missed, or what? So anyway, that was the second hit. And his third hit, though, like he's getting ready for it, and I can see him thinking, like, hey, this guy's really not going to move. So he goes, all right. I could just see this. I could see it happening. He's like, all right, here we go. And he does this Happy Gilmore. He comes from way downtown and like does a crow hop into me. And I just watch his fist coming around and hits me right in the same spot as the first one. And instantly I know that he's just split my head open. So the side of my face, I've got this big scar down the side of my face. Blood's running down my face. I can feel it dripping off my chin and onto my shirt. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so stupid. And I'm looking at this guy. Of course, I can't give him any satisfaction or any hope or whatsoever. So as this blood's running down my face and dripping onto my shirt, I just look over and I said, that was 3. You better make the next 2 count. And this guy, I promise, he turns his hand over and he goes, I don't think I can. And it was like his hand swallowed a grapefruit. I mean, it was huge. And I said, use your left hand. He goes, I'm done. I quit. And so Q grabs the money. I tell him to shut up. And then it was funny. The bouncers came over and kicked him and his girlfriend out of the bar. So, and this was Kelsey's bar down in Emerald Isle, and this was late 2003 ish. Anyway, um, good times. But how the story relates to the squadron is it's a Thursday night. I've got work the next morning. So, like normal, finish the beers that we have. But hey, now we got 50 extra dollars to buy beers with. Of course, we're going to buy beers with it. So I end up going over we go out to the parking lot, and my buddies, every rugby player's got their own first aid kit. So we're stripping my face back together and cleaning it all up, and trying to do buddy.
No. I think it looks good. You can't even tell.
So I spend the night at Q's house. The next morning I get up, I look in the mirror, and I'm like, oh my gosh, drunk monkeys put steri strips on my face. I've got steri strips on my face that aren't over the wound.
What is wrong with you people?
They're just stuck to my head.
What's over my eyeball? I don't know. I thought that his eye was supposed to be closed. I don't know.
You know what? And there's no way that anybody with any kind of a right mind would think a professional did that. I would say my 6-year-olds could do that. Could do a better job making it look neat. Anyway, I take a shower. I got as hot as water as I can. I'm trying to soften this up. I'm peeling some of them off. It's bleeding more. It's just a mess. Finally, I'm like, forget it. So I get my uniform on, and I head into work. And I show up at work, and of course, like the first guy that sees me is like,
"There's nothing wrong. What's going on?"
I didn't have sunglasses.
What?
I walked in, and they're like, "Oh, geez, what happened?" I was like, "Rugby. Got her playing rugby." I said it's rugby related, is what I said. I didn't want to. So I probably said that to about 20 people till I got to my office. And Captain Griggs was there, Eric Griggs, tremendous guy. He ended up being a squadron commander. But anyway, I said to Captain Griggs, hey, well, he's like, geez, what happened to you? And I was like, no, I'll tell you. So I told him the whole story. The problem was I didn't know how he got his call sign. And his call sign is muzzle because he can't keep his mouth shut about anything. So I might as well have just told the whole squadron all at once, because in a matter of about 15 minutes of telling him the story, he's told everyone. Of course, the next thing I know, the OPSO, Lieutenant Colonel Prowse, is like, hey, Burkett, can you come see me in my office? And I was like, yes, sir, because I knew it was going to happen. I go into his office. I'm ready to just get my head cut off because I know it's coming. And he says, all right, close the door. Also not a good sign. I close the door. Lieutenant Colonel Prowse says, all right, first of all, I want to start by saying I'm all about making a few extra bucks. However, he says, however, and he rolls into me and justifiably so. Here I am. I'd had like basically a month off of flying because I'd gotten hurt playing rugby with All Marine. Now I'm out doing stupid stuff in town, playing rugby with the base team, and he's just kind of like, you're a retard. What do I do? What do I do with you? So anyway, he leaves it at, try not to do anything else dumb. I was like, all right, Roger, that's it. So,
okay.
So
have you not met the guy?
So Thursday night I get my face split open. Friday morning I get chewed out by the OPSO. Again, justifiable. In fact, he probably should have taken it to the next level. But by the grace of God, I was in the right squadron. Most squadrons wouldn't have tolerated that kind of foolishness, especially from one of their officers. Anyway, everything's kind of just, I couldn't have been in a better squadron with better people. So that night, though, I'm going to meet one of my friends at this kind of like an investment presentation And there's the thing was, there's the big draw was free dinner. So go there. I listened to their investment spiel, and we're sitting around eating and mingling. And one of the guys comes up, and he's talking. One of the people from the investment company comes up and he's talking to me about it. And he's like, "Oh, so what do you do?" And I tell him, and he's like, "Oh, E546s. Maybe you know a friend of mine, Stinky Prouse." And I said, "I know Lieutenant Colonel Prouse. I don't know him well enough to call him Stinky. Stinky was his call sign." And to give you an idea of the company that I was keeping, Lieutenant Colonel Prouse got his call sign because he had a mason jar that he kept all the body parts that he had lost over the years in the Marine Corps, whether it was fingernails, toenails, skin from blisters, um, big hock and loogies, whatever. But anytime he opened the jar up to add something else to it, it was
Oh my
it was
God.
so putrid. It was unbelievable. I mean, it could wake the dead. So anyway, that's how Stinky got his call sign.
Oh
Um,
my God.
so anyway, I'm telling the story, how I just got my butt chewed by him, and he says, "Well, hey, promise me this." And he's like, "What's that, sir?" And he goes, "Promise me that when you go into work on Monday, you'll ask him about the time that he got up on a two-story roof, lit himself on fire, and then jumped into a pool while he was at flight school." And I was like, "Okay."
Oh my gosh.
So Monday morning,
You guys are all mental. No, I mean, like, no wonder the Marines are like the most efficient killing force on the planet. You guys are beyond mental.
let's just say I was in the right squadron, and it was great. So right about that time, shortly thereafterwards, like every month, the operations department would go through an ops meeting where they would go through everything that we needed to have guys ready to do before we deployed, and then they'd prioritize them. And they would go down through all the flyers, all the pilots, and then also all the air crew and aerial observers, and assign them priorities on what flights they needed to have to get the squadron ready to deploy. Well, they're going down the list, and they get to me, and I wasn't in the meeting. I was a logistics guy, but as it was told to me, Lieutenant Colonel Prouse, who was the logistics officer and the guy that ran those meetings, said, "All right, First Lieutenant Burkett, what are we going to do with this train wreck? Or anybody got any ideas of what we're going to do with this train wreck?" And one of the captains that was there, who I didn't get along with at all, interestingly enough, said, "That's it. That's his call sign. It's train wreck." And of course, everybody instantly agreed to it. They had to take it to the CO because the commanding officer is the one that actually slaps the table and says, "This is your call sign." Um, but instantly, it was unanimous amongst that group. And you got to realize this. Usually, you get your call sign on the backside of your first deployment. Usually, it's some event or a series of events that happens before you or during your deployment, and then on the way home, they stop somewhere. They have a kangaroo court, and they actually go through this big spiel. It's a very fun formality. This involves a lot of drinking and carrying on, but you get your call sign on the backside of this thing. Well, I didn't make it to my first deployment, and guys are walking down the hall saying, "Hey, what's up, Trainwreck?" And I'm like, "You guys talking to me?" And yeah, the OPSO called me into his office and just said, "Hey, want to give you a heads up. She was going to be calling you into his office, letting you know what's going on with your call sign's Trainwreck." So, but
Well, I mean, they nailed it. I mean, they nailed it.
well, I will say this: I could have gone to 3 or 4 different squadrons, but by the grace of God, I went to that squadron, which was HMM 162, the Golden Eagles, and it was an incredible deployment. We went to hit just about every country in the Middle East and northeastern Africa, and then actually cut my teeth in southern Iraq. So it was awesome. But yeah, that's how I got the call sign Trainwreck.
So then you have your accident, you come home, you go through all that you went through and the rehab, and they got you back into I guess they had an archery program, is that correct?
Well, initially it was, hey, part of your rehab and your recovery is going to be a participation in adaptive sports.
Look at this. Look at this real fast.
Hey, I can tell stories all day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, like you almost got married. How about that story, huh? Good God.
So anyway,
Anyway.
I forget the question. Oh, so they're like, hey, participation in adaptive sports. Now, mind you, they come into my room and tell me this, and literally my legs are pinned together with an erector set, hanging from scaffolding, and because I mean, it was crazy. I mean, like I will tell you that I was in the LZ, and that's a long story. We could talk about that too if you wanted to. But I grabbed the corpsman before he went to go work on the co-pilot. I grabbed him and I said, "Hey, you make sure that they know I can wiggle my toes." And he said, "Okay." And I said, "No, you need to swear to me, Doc. You better tell them I can wiggle my toes, because if I don't, when I wake up, I'm not going to have legs. They're going to cut them off. Swear to me." So I'm grabbing this guy, telling him. So anyway, that's how bad my legs were. Like, I'll tell you, when they first picked me up after the crash, after I woke up and they're moving me away from the crash site, I knew I still had a right foot because it was swinging and I could feel the boot hitting me in the butt while they were carrying me. And then after I laid down,
Let me interject real fast. It's a horrific and horrifying story of the crash that you've told. I don't know if you've told it publicly here, but obviously you've told me the story. And again, things that stick out in my mind, like things that are like vividly terrifying in my mind when you tell these stories. Um, and I've seen the footage. I've seen the footage of the crash. It's pretty intense. But um, for the listening audience, so the plane crashes, and you had just unloaded a whole platoon of Marines.
no, 8 guys, small stick. It was a small stick.
All right. So you unloaded these Marines, and then the plane crashes, and this gunny sergeant, I mean, he sees what is happening.
Gunnery Sergeant Joe Alvarez, yeah.
He sees what is happening, and before like the fire, like he orders everybody in there to see what they can pull out.
So I don't know if maybe the viewing audience remembers, but there was a commercial about the Marine Corps, and it was like this big cloud coming at the Marines, and all the Marines are going into the chaos. And the caption was something like, "In the face of chaos, which way will you run?" And then the Marines don't have to worry about that; they know. And that was Joe Alvarez. The debris from the crash hadn't stopped hitting the ground yet when
He had turned everybody to
well,
get
he
in.
had actually he I don't even know if he gave the command. They just started following him, but he was actually coming into the debris field um, to the airplane. We impacted the ground 78 degrees nose down, and basically the rotors did what they were supposed to do and basically disintegrate. But I mean, just the amount of debris that was being thrown in the air, and why there was a knucklehead that actually captured it on video, I don't know, but um, it's pretty intense. But literally, before things have stopped hitting the ground, Gunny Alvarez is leading those Marines back to the aircraft.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So he pulls you out of this wreckage, this carnage, and he gets you over to the medic. And I remember the story was basically the medic looked at your legs, and the medic didn't know what to do. He just froze, and that gunny sergeant smacked him in the side of the head, and you splint those legs up. You splint them up, and you get them out of here. And it kind of like it just kind of re-engaged his brain into what he was supposed to do. And as an EMT, I know that feeling. Your brain sometimes, like, you see something that is just so you're horrific and traumatizing that you just kind of vapor lock, and you don't know what you just I don't know what to do. And if you don't have somebody like the Gunny snapping you out of it, hopefully your instinct takes over. It's one of the stories that happened to me. I didn't think that I was going to be able to carry on in my profession, but instinct took over, and we got through it. But anyway, but in this situation, like, you just kind of needed to a quick jolt restart. Like, okay, all right, yeah, all right, I know now I know what to do. And honestly, that Eric, on multiple levels, that Gunny sergeant, like,
Yeah, I owe a lot to. Well, he's not a gunny anymore. He had been promoted at least once. Lost contact, but you know, for the sake of the story, Gunny Joe Alvarez. So they had moved me from the plane. I was like, when I woke up, I was on the starboard side under the right wing. There was, I don't know what was on, but there were still things on in the aircraft. There was fuel, the smell of fuel, the whine of the aircraft. Anyway, they when I wake up, I'm already outside the aircraft, and the first thing that I recall is the gunny standing over me, kind of where my left foot would have been, and he said, "Don't worry, sir, we got you." And if anybody's got any doubt whatsoever about what a Marine gunnery sergeant is, the movies, portray it pretty accurately. There's something about the gunny, and in this case, Gunny Alvarez was the quintessential gunny. He got him organized. When I woke up, he just like looked at me and said, "Don't worry, sir, we got you." And I'll tell you, I can't think of any more comforting words that I've ever heard in my life than the gunny telling me it's going to be okay, that he's got me. It's like, "I got you, sir. I have no doubts anymore." Of course, the only thing I did is I went down, had to check my junk, and of course, everything was intact. So I knew the gunny was right. But so they moved me away from the aircraft, and
by the way, everybody, he's got 6 children, so yeah, it all works.
Yep, 2 of them post crash, so everything's good. I already told you I knew I had my right foot because I could feel it swinging and then occasionally hitting me in the back and the buttocks. And then when they laid me down on the ground away from the aircraft, there was a sergeant that stayed with me, and he's kind of holding me, propping me up a little bit, and I can do the assessment. And I was wearing a gray tan, the tan flight suit, and it's black from the waist down from the blood. And I can't see my right foot. It's tucked up underneath me somewhere. But my femur on my left leg is sticking out through my flight suit, perfectly intact. Nothing wrong with it. There's no kneecap with it. There's no muscle with it. There's no nothing. It's just this gray cartilage bone with like bright white, or excuse me, gray bone with bright white cartilage knuckle. And I pushed back into the sergeant, and I was like, "I'm so glad I'm in shock." And he says, "Why is that?" I said, "Because if I wasn't, I wouldn't, so I'd be in a lot of pain right now." I know there's a kid right here, at least one, so I won't tell you exactly what I'm saying. The next thing, the corpsman slides in, and like literally, when I say slides in, he's got a full head of steam on. He's got his kit. He slides in right next to me. He's on my right side, and the words out of his mouth are, "What the f am I going to do with this?" And that's when Gunny came and just bear pawed this kid's head off. And he said, "You're going to stop the bleeding. You're going to split him. And we're going to get to the next guy. Let's go." And the Gunny said it in such a way that I'm grabbing for a tourniquet. I ended up taking 4 tourniquets, one on each leg, and they splinted me up. And then he ran to go get the co-pilot. And I saw Jake. He's laying there. He's hurt. He's hurt bad. but he's not covered with blood. He's interacting with the corpsman, so I knew he was going to be okay. And I saw the gunny, and uh, I saw the gunny, and I said, "Hey, gunny, I got 2 more guys in the plane. How are they doing?" And it was like I punched him or something because he just kind of stopped and and stood up straight and looked at me and said, "No bullshit, sir." Like like he thought that I was kidding or something. I don't know. But he said, "No bullshit, sir." And I was like, "Yeah, I need no bullshit. How are they doing?" And that's what he stopped and he squared up and looked at me like he couldn't believe that I didn't know. But he said, "Sir, one's dead and we're trying to get to the other one now." And I remember praying right there that God would trade me for them. But that day, Corporal Robbie Reyes and Corporal Derek Kearns died. Some little shitty piece of Africa. So I'll tell you that I had one shitty day in the Marine Corps. I've had a few tough ones, but every other day was truly living the dream. But yeah, it was a tough day.
Yeah.
But there you go.
All right. All right.
But yeah, I would just say, hey, I already had one, but to Derek Kearns and to Robbie Reyes, never
Derek Kearns
forget.
and Robbie Reyes. All right. So all that happens, you come back. We
Dude, that's not like there's a whole story behind that. There's 12 reasons, like that there 12 or 15 things where God directly put things in place. Because there's absolutely no way. If you look at the situation, you look at how the aircraft hit the ground, you look at the injuries that I had, you look at where we were at, there were so many things that were in place, and personnel that were in place that were critical to keeping me alive to make it to Germany within like less than 10 hours of the crash. It's mind boggling. But I make it to Germany. Um, I see an incredible guy shows up there a day after I got there, Travis Mills, the 5th surviving quadruple amputee. Even to this day, he remains an inspiration to me. Just one of the toughest men I've ever met, and also one of the most generous and good natured guys I've ever met. Uh, but but as much as that was a tragedy, and as quickly that I would trade places with Derek or Robbie or both of them, God had different plans for me, and my life changed that day, and I'm doing things that otherwise I never would have done, and I'm just trying to make the most of it. So
yeah. Well,
segue into whatever.
if I may be so whatever forward,
Awesome.
I agree with that 100%. Um, when you made the decision to become a pilot, I was honestly shocked by that. And the reason why I say that is because knowing you as long as I've known you, and your endeavors in, say, um, on the football field, and um, everywhere else that I have seen you do what you do, you are a natural leader. And I had thought to myself, if he had stayed on the ground, you're one of the kind of officers that hundreds of people would follow without even thinking. That's the kind of person that you are, and the way that you, um, it's a natural born leadership skill that you have. Um, and if I can be so bold, I always thought that that talent was wasted as a pilot because I mean, yeah, you're part of a squadron and whatnot, but as far as your abilities to inspire people and to gain their loyalties, it comes naturally to you. It always has. Um, as your little brother, um, that was something that I could always see happening. With the way that people just gravitated around you. And so, kind of moving this ball forward, and not making light of what we just talked about, but just moving forward, um, going into now the archery thing. So you they give you an opportunity to move into archery, and you develop your skills, and the crash happened in what 2012, and by 2014 you're now in London competing on a global stage in archery. And as a matter of fact, I have right up there, I have
I
that
am you.
that jersey is the jersey that you wore in London.
White one, the white one.
Yeah, the white one in September of 2014, where you competed in archery and ended up bringing home the gold medal
Yes, sir.
in the Invictus Games. You won the gold medal in the Invictus Games in 2014. So 2 years after your accident, you're halfway across the world again, competing on a competitive level, which is just who you are as a person. And you're bringing home the gold. So that's 2014.
Yes, sir.
So now, if I can just be a little bit self-serving and selfish here, um, bringing this whole story and everything that we are full circle. When we talk about Phoenix, Phoenix E.O.D, um, when we were coming up with the idea of the company, of being who we are, Phoenix. And I remember going home to see my dad and our dad. I remember going home to see our dad, and we were talking about like I think I want to start doing my own company. I have the backing of these influencers. I found an investor who's willing to find more investors. Um, and Sorry, I'm trying to say hello to Dee Dee.
Hi, Dee Dee from Texas, I think.
Yeah. So when we were coming up with the name of Phoenix, and Dad was really kind of against the name Phoenix. It's overplayed. It's very hard to spell. Um, People are going to have a tough time finding you on the internet and things of that nature. The counterpoint to that was always um, one of my very, very dear friends, Emerson. His wife is a tattoo artist, and he had always said, tattoos need to be personal. You just don't get tattoos for the sake of having a tattoo. It needs to mean something to you. And yeah, exactly. And so, of my accident back in '94. Um, and then there was your accident in 2012. That's where the name Phoenix came from. You know, you Eric have been a constant inspiration to me. Watching your growth, watching your flight pattern, the things that you have done in your life, and the challenges that you've overcome. Um, you know, so this accident happened in 2012, 2014. You win the gold medal. Um, you hold a state championship in Pennsylvania. Um, I mean, you're competing on an Olympian level. Um, it's extremely inspirational. And then the Instagram post that really dropped the match, if you will, the Instagram post that dropped the match into who we are as Phoenix E.O.D. You were doing
Squats.
you're doing squats. So just to rewind a little bit, you didn't lose both of your legs right away.
Correct.
As a matter of fact, when you won the gold medal, you still had one working leg. Um, but then you ended up losing both of them. And you know, and I can't imagine what you go through on a daily basis. I can't. I know the injuries that I sustained, you know, I don't have a working ankle, but at least the foot is still attached to the leg. Um, you know, and the pain that it causes, I think every day, like, you know, what would it be like to just kind of lose the foot and then, you know, have a prosthetic, and the stuff that you go through every single day with the prosthetics, you know, even just like waking up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom is going to be a challenge. It's going like it's going to change your just all the things that we take for granted. It changes.
Aaron, I just not to make too much light of it, I would just say this though. I spent 4 years at Walter Reed, which you'd already mentioned.
Yeah.
But one of the things I learned was, you know, even the people that we see walking down the streets that appear to be completely able-bodied, you know, that they're fighting something, they're dealing with something. You know, there's nobody out there that's just, man, my life is so great. I have zero worries whatsoever. You know, I mean, so I mean, these are just some physical things in my life that everybody can see. You know, I'll tell you to go along with that. You know, it's not like I'm playing this off because I'll tell you that I've had to learn how to walk 6 different times as an adult, like from just standing up on my legs to taking a first step to falling down and learning how to get back up and everything else in between 6 times as an adult. But you know, there's nobody out there that goes through life unscathed. You just might not be able to see it or not. It's just it's what we decide to do when we are faced with a challenge, when we are faced with a limitation or something like that. You know, what I want somebody to lose their legs or a leg? Absolutely not. But also, that's not what identify or how I identify as someone. You know, I would tell you that to do the things that God wants me to do in this life, I
Yeah,
don't need legs.
I have to interrupt you. I spent a lot of time with you down at Walter Reed during those 4 years.
You know,
Um, Often I would come down on the weekends to relieve Melissa so that she could just kind of, you know, go to the grocery store and take a shower.
breathe. Yeah, take a nap.
Right, exactly. And you took me to dinner one night. You had a nurse with you. It was some big to do up on Capitol Hill dinner, and um, there was a bunch of different wounded warriors there, and there was a wounded warrior that was there, and you could see that he was so bitter and he was so angry at being in the wheelchair. He obviously he was a double amputee. He lost both of his legs, Um, you know, I do not want to make light of the choice. I don't want to make light of the choice because there is a choice that you can take. You can either embrace the suck and rise above it and become the phoenix, or you can allow that darkness to just take hold and consume you and burn you into nothing. And so, like Rick had said earlier in the comments, nobody who's drafted, everybody's a volunteer. That's true, but at the same time, at the end of the day, there is a choice that, like, all right, so this is what's happened to me now. These are the things that have happened to me, and I don't have any control over what has happened to me, but I do have control over what I'm going to do with it. And you can either be consumed by that darkness, or you can be a train wreck and you can rise above it, and you can create that following that I knew that you had that ability to inspire people over a decade ago. We're going back 15 years. I knew that you had that ability to inspire people. And now, instead of inspiring people wearing a uniform, you're inspiring people wearing a jersey. You're inspiring people every day. You're inspiring a company called Phoenix E.O.D. because you said in a post on squat day, what's your excuse for skipping leg day? And I've never forgotten that. And that has been, I should have that tattooed on my back. What is your excuse for skipping leg day? And the answer is, I don't have an excuse for skipping leg day. So Phoenix is going to be Phoenix E.O.D. Evolve or die. And you can evolve to become greater than your circumstances, or you can die. You can let that darkness consume you, or you can aspire to be something better than what you are today, regardless of what your circumstances are, regardless of where you lay your head at night. At some point I was homeless. I was squatting in a house, in an abandoned house in Collingswood, New Jersey. I was squatting. And now we're running a company that we created. So you can just either be consumed by that darkness, or you can not skip leg day. Do it.
Do it.
So
part of the leg day.
that's where we're at. We're approaching the 1 hour and 45-minute mark, which means we're close to 2 hours. I'm still ready to rock and roll, but there is a real message and that's the reason why I wanted you to be on the show, is because of, it's not so much what brought you to being in the position that you're in, but it's pretty much what you have always inspired in me. And that when all of those things did happen to you, you proved me right. You proved me right, Eric. Like, I've always, like, even reluctantly, God help me. I've always been inspired by you, even when we were little kids, even when you were at the height of your dickishness. You've always inspired me. And I remember going, being in high school and living in your shadow, and living in your shadow wasn't a horrible thing. I don't know if you know this. There's a picture of you in our high school yearbook with you just standing on the sidelines on the bleachers, and they took a picture of you, and they're like, "There's Eric, like inspiring the basketball team onto greatness." And it's just like, yeah, that's what he does. You've always been you've always been like this beacon of inspiration for everybody that's around you. And so when right before you entered the pilot program, I'm like, this guy could be the next commandant of the Marine Corps. The way that people just love him and want to follow it, like people will follow you into battle. And now, basically by God taking your legs, he's given the rest of us a chance to be almost as cool as you. And I'm not saying that as some sort of, like, blowing smoke up your ass. I'm serious, dude. Like, I've been able to watch you for 50 years. and your story arc is not even close to being done. It's truly an inspiration. You are the aspire to evolve. That's who we are as Phoenix E.O.D. And you might not be the only inspiration, but you are definitely a major inspiration. And you I can tell you right now that you gave me the balls to make the jump. I mean, I had my four horsemen that were all like, "Hey, if you do it, we'll support you." And I had Dave, my chief investor, "Hey, if you do it, I'll find people to support you." But it was you that gave me the balls to actually jump. What is my excuse for skipping leg day? Geronimo. That's it. I threw the parachute out the plane, and then I jumped out of the plane chasing the parachute. So, yeah, I
Well,
mean,
maybe that's the answer to the big question. Like, what do I do now? And I'll tell you, I really, and I talked about it earlier about, we're talking about the crash and how all those things were in place. And I truly believe that if any one of those things wasn't put there and put there deliberately by God, and we could, like, the whole story of the crash is probably 3 or 4 hours unto itself. And then the time at Walter Reed, the same kind of a thing. But I will tell you that, you know, I really am convicted that I don't think that I would have gone through this, survived this, had all these things happen, um, just as a matter of like happenstance or something random. I think this truly is, God's way of changing my course. Like, hey, because me, I was just, full blown drinking the Kool Aid with the Marine Corps. And I think that's part of the reason why I spent 4 years at Walter Reed, and then a few more months even after that, transitioning out of the Marine Corps. But just all that, there's a reason for it, and I do believe that you hit it on the head there. It's to inspire, and it's to remind people that, hey, look, just because there's setbacks in life, whether they're whatever, traumatic, catastrophic, lose a leg, lose two legs, get crushed, have a TBI, all whatever it is, lose a friend, lose two friends. Um, there's a reason for it, and we we can use our stories. We can to inspire, to encourage, to show other people love, to show other people, hey, look, for whatever reason this happened in your life, and it's not the end. It's a change. It's a challenge. Make the most of it. Go out there and attack life. Um, and I think I said earlier, um, we might see somebody walking down the street and they look totally fine. And they might, have nice clothes or whatever, jewelry, and drive a nice car. But what's their handicap? They've got one. They've got one. So be willing to show love and understanding and stuff like that. And I'll tell you this: I just noticed someone jump on there, Shannon Rogers. So there's someone that is someone who remains to be inspiring and amazing. So keep it up, Shannon. Um, but I don't know. I think God put me through this ordeal. Uh, um, has put these challenges in my life, and that's to bring encouragement and inspiration to others. Um, Maybe to show others that He is in charge and that we can trust Him, and that no matter what gets thrown at us, we can go get it, um, and we can get after it. I've told people in the past that if I needed legs to do what God wanted me to do, I'd have legs. So so this whole thing with no legs and these funny metal feet and stuff like that, it's just a thing. It's just a
yeah,
thing.
but I mean, at the same time, he did give you legs.
You did.
Seriously, Lieutenant Dan, those are some fantastic.
Yay!
We've had some great stories around those legs. You know what I mean? Like, so let's dovetail into that jersey that you're wearing, that sexy, sexy jersey that you're wearing.
I mean,
Um,
Phoenix E.O.D jersey. Boom. What's up?
Phoenix EOD jersey. There is a on the back. There's a whole bunch of like people that you're associated with and whatnot. Um, when we were able to when that opportunity for us to sponsor you opened up, and we got those jerseys made for you, Lauren down at full drawn archery or
Addiction.
addiction, full drawn addiction. Um, we were able to put her logo on that jersey, and we were also able to put Otterbach on that jersey. And I think that story of Otterbach is one of my absolute favorite stories that in in recent years. And the fact that I was able to get their permission to put Otterbach on that jersey um was just absolutely fantastic. So the story basically boils down to this. Last year, Eric was competing for national in the national competition, and he had forgotten his. So Otterbach creates this prosthetic, and the prosthetic basically it's the first generation of cyborg. So in 40 years, when the world is taken over by robots, just know that Eric contributed to global domination by the robots.
Don't hate me.
So that leg there um, is semi cybernetic, in which it can anticipate his movements, and so when he starts to walk, it will anticipate that and help him take a step forward. But it is battery powered, and you have to charge it. And Eric left the charger back at home when he came out here in the Philadelphia area to compete. And there were back-to-back tournaments, and so he was totally fine for the first tournament. But the second tournament, which was nationals, he was running dangerously close to running out of power. And so what I did was I called their Otterbox headquarters. I called Otterbox headquarters. Wonderful people there put me in contact with the sales rep of the Philadelphia area. I'm not sure exactly how big of a territory it is, but I'm fairly certain it's pretty substantial. So she gives me that guy's phone number. I call that phone number. I leave a message. Hey, this is the situation. I need a charging cord. Can you please call me back? So then I get a phone call from another sales rep from the lower half of the East Coast out of North Carolina. And the guy's like, hey, the sales rep for the Philadelphia area is on vacation. He forwarded me your voicemail. What's going on? So I explained the whole situation to him. Now, mind you, rewind a little bit. I had contacted Eric's wife Melissa to send the his charger overnight. So it would get there. It would get to our location.
Yeah, he paid for everything.
Within 24 hours. The hotel that he was staying at received multiple packages that day and ended up giving all of the packages to one patron who obviously was driving and moving on. And so this guy or this person drove away with Eric's charger. That's why I ended up having to call Otterbach. So the first plan was to overnight the charger. That got sent off to who knows where by some clown in the behind the desk. I reach out to Otterbach, blah, 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 blah. I tell this whole story to the North Carolina sales rep. He's inspired enough to call the Philadelphia area sales rep and says, hey, this is pretty significant. He's a wounded vet, blah, 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 blah. We need to get on top of this. So Matt, I want to say Matt Finnegan from the Philadelphia area called me and said, hey, I'm on vacation in the Poconos. Where's your brother? I'm heading to him right now.
I'm with my wife on our anniversary.
Yeah, I'm on vacation with my wife on our anniversary in the Poconos. But this is way more
Where's your
important.
brother?
Where's your brother at? I'm already on my way, so there's no point in not telling me. So I tell him exactly where my brother's staying. He's like, "Oh, I know that hotel. No problem. Tell your brother I'll be there in 45 minutes." So this guy from Ottobock, Matt, the unsung hero, leaves his wife in the Poconos, drives an hour and a half
On their anniversary.
on their anniversary to bring Eric a charger for his leg so he can compete in the nationals the following day. I mean, it's a true epic story of unbelievable customer service and just being a human. It was amazing. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. And so like I have told this story to everybody that will listen. Meanwhile, while the guy is driving, while the guy is driving from the Poconos to meet Eric, I get another phone call from the vice president of Ottobock. And he's like, "Hey, I just heard this story. If there's anything you need, you let me know." And I tell him all about Matt. So I hope, I've only talked to Matt, I think, twice since then. And that was to get, permission to put Ottobock on your jersey and whatnot. But I hope that they, promoted him to, VP of customer service or whatever. It was an amazing story. I couldn't believe, like, I think Phoenix E.O.D is pretty on top of customer service. We take customer service very seriously. Um, you know, I without our customers, we are absolutely nothing. But Ottobock, I mean, that is a whole nother level. That is a whole nother level of just amazingness. Um, so uh that's the story behind that. But anyway, so we were able to contact Matt, who Matt put me in contact with marketing, and marketing finally gave me um permission, written permission to put their name on your jersey. And so I think those jerseys are sexy as hell, dude. I really do. I think they're amazing. Phoenix COD representing Trainwreck on the chest. Look at that. Woo! Woo! So anyway, speaking of that jersey, there's also another company that is represented on that jersey. I don't know if you can see his shoulders, those massive meat chunks of shoulders that he has. But that symbol also matches what is on my chest right now. Boop, boop, boop. So let's talk internally compelled.
We want to know about internally compelled.
What is internally compelled? We want to know. What is it?
Well, internally compelled is an apparel, a t-shirt company that that I've been in the process of starting it. There hasn't been any kind of a launch. There's nothing official about it yet whatsoever. But I was going through social media at some point, and I saw a shirt that absolutely appalled me, and it said, "Thank me for my service," and I was just completely disgusted by it. Thank me for my service. A guy had mentioned earlier in the chat there, hey, we're all volunteers. There's no draft or whatever. So it's like, you asked to go, you volunteered to go, you committed to going, and to think that you were going to go with an expectation that somebody's going to thank you for it on the backside, how arrogant and obnoxious are you? And I was just thinking, man, I'd love to see that guy walking down the street, because I'd thank him for his service. I'd call his little punk ass out. But anyway, it got me thinking. And I remembered a situation when I was an officer candidate school. And Marine officer candidate school sucks. There's no easy way around it. It sucks. It's tough. It's grueling, both physically and mentally. It's pretty tough. But I remember, like, Platoon Sergeant Staff Sergeant Torres. Again, there's another guy that I will never forget. Made such a positive impact in my life. But if he didn't say it directly to me, he said it to a group of us. But I was definitely part of it because I remember being told something and I cut my eyes or I looked away or something like that. Um, and he said, "Are you externally motivated? Because if you're externally motivated, you're not going to make it. Because the job that we do, there's no cheerleaders. There's nobody there to pat you on the back or to rub your shoulders and say it's going to be okay. No, no, no. You've got to be internally compelled. It's got to come from within you. When there's no cheerleaders, when there's no sign of hope, when there's, everything seems horrible and against you, you've got to be internally compelled to get out, to do it. When you're tired, when you're sore, when your back hurts, when your shoulders are off from the weight of the pack in your shoulders, when whatever it is, whatever making you feel like you can't do it, you've got to find a way inside of you to do it. So anyway, that happened at officer candidate school. That was early 2000. That was summer of '99, and it stuck with me the whole way through the Marine Corps. Am I doing what I'm about to do for the right reasons? Am I doing it because someone's looking at me, because I'm going to get an award, or someone's going to pat me on the back, or am I doing this because this is the right thing to do? And if nobody ever finds out that I made this decision or did this thing, it's still the right thing to do. Am I internally compelled? Am I externally motivated? And it really, and to this day, it's still one of those things that I lean on when I make decisions about life. So, so as I tie all these things together, I just thought of this shirt idea where what if I make a positive message, not a negative message, not a, there's so many negative messages out there in t-shirts, it's unbelievable. Something that's not offensive. There's another shirt that I saw that I could relate to as a veteran. I could relate to this thing, but I was like, there's no way I can wear that shirt. Why? Because I have a mom, I have daughters, I have a wife, and it's ugly. It's ugly. The thing it says on there. And I just remember who wears a shirt like that? That doesn't do anything to heal the nation. It doesn't do anything to bring us together. That doesn't do anything like that. So it's just this frustration. So I came up with this idea with this t-shirt company called Internally Compelled. And what it is it's a positive message, but it's made just for you. So if you look on Aaron's shirt, it says internally compelled, and on the back it'll say internally compelled. There's the little thing. But what you don't see is what's on the inside of the shirt. And there is something inside of his shirt on his chest. He doesn't have to show you.
I'm not going to show you, but you can see that there's some sort of words.
But it's designed just for you. Whatever motivates you, whatever's positive for you, whatever is out there. Like for a young lady, it could be "I am beautiful" or "I'm worthy." For anybody that may be of religious, forgiven. Somebody's an athlete, better than yesterday, or better than you, or nobody works harder. There's a whole bunch of different ideas that are floating out there, but this shirt it's for you. So what would happen is someone would call in and say, "Hey, I need X amount of shirts," or a team might have an idea, but where you don't have to advertise to the world what's motivating you. And if you're somebody that has something on there to remind you that you're worthy, that you're good enough, that you're strong enough, you don't have to show those vulnerabilities to the world as well. But when you're walking through the supermarket and you're wearing that t-shirt, that's a way to remind you, hey, look, whatever it is, this is for me, and this helps me stay positive. I choose love. Could be one.
Eric, I can't tell you. There are some days here at Phoenix headquarters that are harder than others. Regard supply chain issues, or there's a problem with a batch of whatever we're out there dealing with. Like right now, I'm dealing with a situation with I'm dealing with a weird batch of gloss and wax, and I'm trying to figure out how we're going to fix it. I will wear this shirt on purpose, knowing what kind of a day I'm about to walk into. And it's like, today I got to wear that shirt. I got to wear this shirt because what's my excuse for skipping leg day? It's going to be tough and it's going to suck. But I need what is underneath this shirt to get me through this day. And so I wear this shirt on that day, knowing it's going to suck. And maybe it's insignificant to most people, but for me, it is that little extra to push me over the finish line. And that's ultimately what, that great Rocky quote that's circulating out there so much right now, and it's overused, but it's still so poignant, which is, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up and move forward, and how you do that. And internally compelled, it motivates me. It motivates me. And even if it's whatever, even if it's just some stupid mantra, it still motivates me, and it's enough to push me across that finish line. Hey, I'm gonna get it done. Oh my God, Ryan, you remember that? Eric, last September, I didn't know Phoenix was going to continue. Honestly, it was one of those, the world was imploding on me, and I didn't know how we were going to get our way out of it. But um, this community, the community that you're currently talking to, all of these people in this chat room, all the people that are going to watch this after the fact, all the people that have already watched it and moved on, this community is truly a Phoenix family. um I have gotten so much support, and I've gotten so much, um it's like, there when I was in the army, there was this kid. I don't remember his name. I don't know anything about him other than the fact that he was a Navajo Indian. And this kid could run like a gazelle. He I mean, like, beyond Olympian level running. He could just run and run. I mean, he did it as, I think he was like close to a 6-minute 2 mile. 6-minute 2 mile. Like, the kid is just running. And he had always said that, in the Navajo nation, running was a form of worship to one of their, the wind god or whatever, one of their gods. It was a form of honoring their god. And so they could just run. And he would cross the finish line, and then he would run back into the crowd to encourage the rest of us to run, to just encourage, to pick us up and get us over the finish line. And it was for him, it was about the rest of it. It was never about him, it was about the rest of us. um and he would run, and he would encourage, and he would run, and he would encourage. And this is the way this Phoenix family has been. The darkest days and the hardest nights, um this family has been here for Phoenix. um just today, there was a post that was made by Phil Miranda, who is affectionately known as one of my horsemen. And apparently somebody came at him sideways for one of his videos. And it wasn't really, when you're a YouTube influencer, you're going to come into, you're opening yourself up for cannon fodder. People are going to fire at you and talk trash and try to tear you down. And as Pan the organizer can attest, the bigger you are, the more people are going to want to tear you down. Dave Chappelle once said, people just want to see a hero fall. Um, Somebody went after Phil Miranda, and as Phoenix E.O.D, I weighed in on it. And I said that this guy was a loser. He's acting like a loser, and he's trying to take down a winner. Somebody responded to my comment with, "Well, I guess I'm not going to be a customer of Phoenix anymore." Or, I'm never going to use your products or whatever. You shouldn't weigh in on social media. You shouldn't say anything. You're calling somebody else a name, which makes you just as bad as the person that said the original insult or whatever it was. The guy used vulgarity, and Phil was obviously impacted by whatever was said to him. It hurt his feelings regardless. Phil has been with me from before Phoenix even opened up the doors, before we even went live, before we were even a business. Phil had been a friend of mine. We had talked. He was an inspiration for me. Glossom Wax was inspired and helped created by Phil. So I weighed in. And I said to this guy, "You're absolutely right. I should not weigh in." And 99 times out of 100, I'm not going to say anything because it's not worth, being involved in something that controversial. But you personally went after my friend on a personal level. And that's more important to me than any dollar that you're going to send my way. You go after one of my friends, you go after one of my family members, I will defend them viciously, and I'll burn the ground and salt the earth if you go after one of my friends and family. And it's more important. And I said, and I appreciate your convictions. If you feel that way, that I should not have weighed in, I appreciate you, and I appreciate your convictions. I appreciate your opinion as much as I hope you can appreciate mine. That if you go after one of mine, this family, this community here, if you go after one of them, I'm going to defend them. And I'm going to, I'm going to do everything that I can within my power. And if that means that I don't make a dollar off of you, so be it. There's more important things than that. And I think that everybody in this room right now is a living, breathing example of exactly why I feel the way that I feel. All of these people have gone to my defense. All of these people here support me, believe in me, and in my darkest days and in my hardest nights, they have all rallied to my cause. Ryan being one of those guys where I remember calling him last, October, and Brian, I don't know what I'm going to do. And he just listened. He was just there to hear me just work it out. Um, so anyway, I think that this family is bigger than anything else that's out there. I think that you have been an inspiration, and that you are definitely um, you're definitely the reason, or one of the reasons, I should say, that I'm still standing. So there you are.
If I can, I don't know. I'm honored. I really am. And I'll tell you, Aaron, um, one of the last things that I expected from you, especially the way, um, I was as a big brother, um, a lot of those things that I'm not very proud of, um, was your commitment to be encouraging, and to write me, whether it was an email, whether it was a letter, sending a care package, all those things that you did over all those deployments. You were faithful to that, and um, I would say, I would venture to maybe even speak for some of these guys that are out there, um, writing in the chat comments and these other things, that you um, have a character about you and an integrity about you, um, and and if nothing else, a fierce level of loyalty to your friends, I mean, just the fact that, I mean, how many other people, and I've been on the phone with you multiple days, where like literally you have me on speakerphone and I hear you filling orders, or I hear you answering every single comment, every single question, every single complaint or concern. You don't push that off on anybody else. You certainly don't just let it go to the wayside and forget about it. But every single one, whether the guy buys 1,000 units or 1 unit, um, you're loyal to them and you respond to them, and then and that inspires people, and that encourages loyalty from them too. And um, you know, these guys out here, Ryan, and some of the others that I see, I read on here, you know, it's because of who you are. I mean, first of all, knowing what I know about this company of yours and the products that are out there on the market and what your products bring to the table, you truly have the best products out there. I don't know anybody else out there that can touch you, and certainly not anywhere close to the price point that you're at. Okay, but then the fact that you stand behind every single thing that goes out the door, you respond personally to every phone call, to every um, question, whether it's social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. You're there. It's you. You sign your name to this thing, and then on the top of that, you back up your guys, and as a result, they become fiercely loyal to you too. And you know, if you want to say something like, "Well, that was an inspiration from years ago when I was your big brother at high school," I'd say fooey because I was a shitty big brother. But you know, you're building this company with integrity, and it's the tough way to do it, but you're doing it. And there you go. Shine your light detailing. Integrity matters, Aaron. And that's, if nothing else, and there's a ton more, but if nothing else, you have integrity. You have integrity. And it might be tough to have integrity. It might be, that like we say in the military a lot of times, do you choose the hard right or do you take the easy wrong? And time after time after time, you have chosen to take the hard right, whether it's your product, whether it's like one of the guys wrote here in the comment section about when he got all, and I remember you going through that. I was on the phone with you when you got the shipment in, and you're like, "This is not right. I don't know what this crap is, but this isn't right." And it was right before one of your big things. I don't know if it was before a show, before the thing you did with Motor Trend or whatever. But you're like, "I'm anticipating a lot of sales here, and this isn't right. What do I do?" And you did the right thing. You chose the hard right thing to do as opposed to the easy wrong thing. The easy wrong thing would have been like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to make these sales and this stuff's going to go out the door. And how many companies would have done that? And it would have been good enough. But it wasn't Phoenix E.O.D. and it certainly wasn't Aaron Burkett. And you said, you know what, I'm sending all this crap back and you guys are going to send me the right stuff because everything that goes out this door is going to have my name on it. And my name means something. And and that's why Phoenix EOD, and that's why you have like over in this column section here of all the comments, why you have such fiercely loyal people, and that's if I can inspire somebody, man, praise the Lord. I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing. But what you've gathered here though is inspiring people in integrity in a product, integrity in a company. You've given like almost like a hope in society, like, hey, look, there are still people out there that make stuff that I care about and that they care about, and they care more about than making a bunch of money, than driving a fast car, or to sending it to some other company and letting them bottle it and print it and whatever and send it out and everything else like that. No, you do it. You ensure every single package that goes out the door with your name on it, with Phoenix EOD on it, is quality. Every single one. Who else does that, man? Nobody. Nobody.
Well, I mean, we certainly try. Obviously, I mean, as Ryan just pointed out, some mistakes happen. Um, but when I find out about it,
Well, hey, Ryan. All right, hey, man, I get it. Things happen. Guess what? We're all human. And if he can do everything 100% every single time,
No,
man,
he's not knocking me. Ryan has been
because I'm about to go give him
100% a
one
massive
of your
supporter.
loyal customers here
Here's an example.
and say, hey, man, what's up?
Here, I'll give you an example. We recently had these made, which is basically these born-on window clings for the ceramic line. So basically, when you use Immortal or Chronos and you're a detailer and you put it on somebody's car, you can fill it out. You could stick it on their car, and it says, "Okay, this is it's a 5-year coating, 1-year coating, whatever." Blah 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 blah. We did that huge sale for the ceramic coatings at the 4th of July, and it was a very successful sale. People bought a lot of stuff. But because this was a fairly new thing that we just implemented, um, it didn't really disseminate out into the warehouse. And so when all of those orders got processed, they all got processed without these. And the way that we figured it was you could probably get 2 vehicles out of a 50 milliliter bottle. You can get 4 vehicles out of a 100 milliliter bottle. So with the 50 milliliter bottle, you get 2 of these. And with the 100 milliliter bottle, you get 4 of these. And with the Immortal, I think you can get you obviously you can get more than 2 cars out of it, but cost effectiveness being what it is, you get 2 because it's whatever. They all went out without these things being included, and it's supposed to be included. And so I wrote a letter to everybody that ordered ceramics during the sale. I wrote a letter and I included what they were missing in that letter, and I mailed it to everybody. And I didn't get a single person that complained that they didn't get it. So it wasn't even like they didn't read the fine print. They didn't know they were supposed to get it. But I knew they were supposed to get it. And that upset me a lot that they didn't get what they were supposed to get. So I wrote a letter and I sent it to everybody. Um, it's just the way things should be done. And I don't care if it costs me. I don't care if it costs me. This guy right here, let me just jump on this guy right here. This guy, Fred. Speaking of the community, Fred is like you can call him the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, if you will, of Glovebox. Glovebox is a monthly subscription service where you sign up to Glovebox and they will ship you every month a box filled with detailing supplies, random companies, and so on and so forth. You don't know what you're going to get.
What's up, Fred?
It's a really cool concept, and I wish that it was. I wish that Phoenix was in a position where we could really do something more so with Fred. But Fred is an amazing human being, and he is well respected throughout the community, the detailing community, not just Phoenix community, but the detailing community overall. Um, Recently, he has emailed a bunch of other significant people in the detailing community, introducing me to those people. And I didn't ask him. We certainly didn't talk about it. It was just something that he did. Hey, so and so, I want you to meet Aaron from Phoenix E.O.D. He's got some tremendous products. I think that you would really like his products. You should check him out. Um, and he's done that numerous times. And I basically I DM'd him and I was like, Fred, why would you do this for me? Why would you do this for me? And he basically just said everything that you just said, which was like, I, I like I like the type of person that you are, and therefore I want to help. And that is ultimately what this whole community has been and is for me. Um, Everybody here is a wellspring of inspiration. Everybody in this room is that Navajo Indian crossing the finish line and coming back for Phoenix and saying, "Come on, let's go. Let's get we're gonna win this." I've never seen anything like it in all of my life. I have never seen a community more interested in helping the guy beside them. It's interesting. Phoenix, and after the original Four Horsemen went through, I was talking with Papa Smurf, and Papa Smurf was just like, you should really stick with the with the ancient mythology theme, and name all of your products after ancient mythology, Roman mythology and Greek mythology. And you know, the reason why the Spartans were so efficient at their job of being Spartans is, they would carry these ginormous tower shields, right? They would carry these ginormous tower shields, but they would carry it over here. And the tower shield didn't protect them, it protected the guy beside them. And that's what it was. It was about the guy beside you. And so they worked as a force together to just conquer and defend and conquer and defend and conquer. And that is what this whole community has been. The Four Horsemen, if you watch their channels, if you look at their shows, if you watch their videos, it's about imparting information for free and helping the community, answering questions, addressing issues. Everybody in this room is about helping the guy beside you, guy, girl, whatever. It's a gender neutral term. Helping the person beside you in the trench. And that is what this entire community since I've started has been. It's an amazing, it's
Hey,
beautiful.
let me jump
I
in.
love being a part of it.
You're not the only guy out there that's selling chemicals to detail vehicles. You're not the only guy out there. Okay, there's a lot of clowns out there. I mean, just because I follow you, I get a bunch of these crazy, advertisements from Joe Schmo, the idiot circus boy that's selling whatever soap or ceramic coating and stuff like that. But you're different. Dude just threw out iron sharpens iron. Hey, seriously, you're not that guy. You're not just another guy out there selling soap. You're not another guy out there selling a cleaner or a ceramic product or something that dissolves iron. You're not that guy. Phoenix E.O.D is an incredible product at a great price point. Okay, and that's good and well, within itself. But the guy behind Phoenix E.O.D is you, and it's your character, and it's your professionalism, and just like it's not even such a professionalism, but I think you said something earlier. That's the way it should be done. That's the way everybody hopes it should be done. And you're doing it that way. So there's no surprise to me that there is this gigantic loyal following of yours that's only going to grow. And I will tell you, as a guy that shot horses for a living in the beginning, it's pretty humbling. Like when you're working on one horse, so you have gas money to get to the next barn to work on the next horse. But if you have integrity, if you do the right thing at the right time, if you're honest, oh man, like integrity, I just kind of had a redundancy there, but just to be honest, like, hey, this project is over my head. I think you should call another horseshoer. I think you should call another farrier because I just don't know what I'm doing. Those people might go and call another farrier to go work on a problem, but they're not going to forget you. So there you are. There's Aaron Burkett, the CEO, the honcho, the founder of Phoenix E.O.D. And as much as Phoenix E.O.D. is a standalone product, because it's the terrific product, the best product out there on the market. I mean, and there's data that shows that. There's also data that shows that, hey, look, for being the best product on the market, it's probably one of the best priced products on the market. And I would say, based on quality and price, it is number one. It can't be touched. But then on top of that, the icing on the cake, the thing that makes it worth my while is you. is you.
Well, we did rank number one in the UK. We ranked number one in Canada. We're waiting for America to come around and rank us number one. But um, just so you know, like just so everybody knows, as big, if we ever grow one day to be, as big or bigger than, Griot's Garage or Adams or any of those the number one spots. Um, every order that comes through headquarters gets one of these, and on the back side of it is thank you for your support. It's handwritten by me. I said,
yes. Where's mine?
well, I said to everybody out in the warehouse, I was just like, if we ever get so big that I'm not really hands-on anything, this will be the last thing that I give up doing, because there's no other reason for Phoenix to exist without the customer. And like you said, there are 100,000 products out there. There's 100,000 companies out there. Every day there's another company that's just, popping up and doing whatever. It is in my core that we exist because somebody is willing, and I mean, and I feel it. I know living paycheck to paycheck. I know what squatting in the house is like. I know all of those things, and I carry all of that stuff with me. And I am eternally grateful that somebody is going to spend $10 on Phoenix E.O.D. You worked really, really hard for that $10. You worked really hard. And there's a lot of places in this universe that you can spend $10. And the fact that you're going to give Phoenix your $10, you deserve my absolute best. You deserve Phoenix's absolute best. And you deserve my gratitude. And I don't care if you're buying twisty caps for 50 cents. You deserve my gratitude, and I'm going to show that. So if it's the last responsibility that I have at this company, where we're so big that we have 1 million employees and they're all doing different functions, I'm still going to write these. I'm going to do it, because I can't do this without you guys. And every company that loses sight of that, they deserve to fail. We exist because you have faith in us, period. So anyway, we've approached the 2.5 hour marks. I know that you have a really busy day tomorrow. Let's get some quick plugs in.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, we right now for the next 5 minutes or so. Any questions that you have for Trainwreck? He'll answer everything and anything, obviously. And of course, what are in the meantime, while people are writing in their questions, what is in the immediate future for Trainwreck?
Oh, so this weekend's kind of a quiet weekend, other than like I've got some training to do. But next weekend, the craziness starts right back up again. So I've got the Buckeye Classic in Columbus, Ohio, another USA Archery team qualifier. So I've already qualified for the team. I just need to shoot nationals, but this will just be more icing on the cake. So this will be the potentially the 7th year that I'll be a U.S. team member for USA Archery. I get back from that and turn right around and I go to a world ranking event in Chicago. From there, I actually fly to Maine, spend a week in Maine, and then I fly down actually to see you in Newark that following weekend, where I shoot the Pennsylvania State Championships, followed by another one in Harrisburg. I'm not sure what that one is, but I'm going to go shoot that and further break hearts and crush souls.
We'll be there for every one of those for sure.
Yep, you sure will be, and I look forward to hanging out with you and just just doing what we do. It seems like every time we get together, it's an adventure. Once I get back from that, I've been blessed USA Archery gave me a grant to actually attend one of their workshops out in Colorado Springs. It's a coach's workshop. I'm a national level coach, and I'll be going out there to work on my skills. But really, thanks to them, I've got a grant that's going to knock out the majority of the expense of that trip. When I get back from that, I've got and I can't remember where the next tournament is, but then shortly after that, I've got U.S. Nationals. Then after Nationals, I don't complete the season. I'll go in back after Nationals. I'll go into more of a coaching mode. For the last few years, I've been coaching at the University of Pittsburgh. I also coach, actually since 2015, I've been a coach for the United States Marine Corps and their Wounded Warrior team as they get ready for Warrior Games and for Invictus. But I mean, it's really, truly, archery has become something in my life that not only do I love, but I'm able to give back uh, to anybody, able-bodied, disabled people, the Marine Corps community. I've taken teams as far as Sydney, Australia for Invictus Games as a coach. That was something that I would say as big of a deal as winning gold at Invictus Games in London in 2014. And I don't know if you were there, but I don't know if you remember, but they asked me, hey, are you going to be ready to defend your title? And I said, absolutely not. And I
do
remember
remember this.
the guy said, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? Huh? What do you mean? Absolutely not. And I said, because I'm not doing this again. I'm not coming back to Invictus Games to shoot archery as a competitor because somebody else needs to feel what I'm feeling right now. If this is about healing, if this is about uh, you know, disabled veterans getting stronger through competition, well, then somebody else needs to feel first place. And I'll tell you, I started the what I would call the gold medal challenge. And that's like, hey, if you're a gold medalist at Invictus Games, you go play for your country's team or whatever, but let somebody else win next year. And I'm proud to say that the guy that came in second place, Luke Martin, he's from Canada, and still a good friend to this day. The next year they had Invictus in Orlando, Florida. He won gold in Orlando. The following year, the third year of Invictus, they were having it in Toronto, his home country. You know what Luke Martin said? Somebody else needs to experience this. So a guy named Josh Lindstrom won gold in Toronto. Luke didn't compete. He stepped down. Josh Lindstrom won, and it came back to the United States. Josh Lindstrom stood down and let somebody else win it. It's
awesome.
Crazy.
It is. It is. By the way, we completely glossed over that story. That in itself is a Hollywood story. What you did to win the Invictus game, that was amazing. I mean, it literally came down to the last shot. The judges had to come out with the magnifying glasses. I don't know if everything stopped.
Well, don't I remember?
I mean, it's a Hollywood story. You winning the gold medal, where they were just like and you were up, and then you were down, and then you were up, and then you were down, and then it came down to the last shot,
the last arrow on the last end. And I remember seeing the judge that was making the call look to the official and say, "It's a 10." And I remember turning around and jumping up in the air on my one leg before they even made the announcement because I saw him say it's a 10, and I knew.
I know. I was there, and I mean, talk about like the most incredible story ever. Like, I wish that we could rewind this episode, an hour and just spend more time on that, because it was the Hollywood movie story, of just like, you couldn't write this stuff. It was so close. It was so cliche. It was so close. The magnifying glass and the whole 9 yards. Like, you would say, oh, that's a totally made up story, but it happened, and I was there and I watched it happen. It was amazing. Anyway,
It was a good time.
one last question: is the internally compelled website up and running? People
No,
want to know.
no, it's not. I'm a nasty turd. I need to get back in there and get that thing rocking and rolling. However,
But your IG is working.
Instagram is working. Also, you can find me there. It's on the ticker at the bottom at MAJ Trainwreck. You can find me there. and just reach out to me. Let me know if you're interested in getting a shirt or a bunch of shirts or whatever, and we can make it happen. We've got some that are already templated, and then but at the same time, no, this is about you. It's not about me. It's like Aaron. It's not about making $1 million or anything like that. But what we want to do is we want to have a quality product that makes people feel good about themselves at Internally Compelled. And seriously, reach out. Let me know what you're interested in, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, IG is definitely working. I was checking out your site earlier today when I was setting this all up. So at Internally Compelled works and at Major Trainwreck works. If you are looking for any kind of inspiration or my life is terrible and I don't know what to do, you follow Major
Hey,
Trainwreck
my
and
life
you
is
will.
good, and I just want to remember that, or whatever it is, whatever motivates you. And then I'll tell you, the only thing that, like, when I was firstly doing like or doing the interest things and doing some Survey Monkeys and stuff like that, there was, it's F Joe Biden and stuff like that. I'm not interested in that. I don't. I want it to be positive. I want it to be positive. There's if you want a negative shirt, there's plenty of places out there that you can buy a negative shirt. Um, you know, but I want it to be positive, and it has to be about you or your team or your group or your organization. And seriously, truly, I feel it. And I hate to say that I would say that I would probably call you on the phone and talk to you about maybe changing a message if it was a negative thing. And you can allow you to explain it to me. But seriously, there are so many people out there that'll let you be negative, that'll encourage you to be negative, that will tell you to be a victim to your circumstances. And that's not what Internally Compels about. Internally Compels about, taking whatever life throws at you and turning it into a sandwich and just eating that sucker and getting on with it. I mean, life's beautiful. We just got to find a way to find it, and embrace it and go for it. So give me a shout at Internally Compelled. Give me a shout at Major Trainwreck or majortrainwreck@gmail.com, something like that, and we'll go with it. We can fully customize whatever shirt. We can put American flag on the sleeve. Um, they're really I do a lot of custom work for people. In fact, most of my work is custom now. But it's about you or your organization or your team, and just a way to stay positive. I mean, there's a football team out there. Um, they've embraced the better than yesterday, and the idea is, we'll come to practice and it'll suck and it'll be terrible, but guess what? We're gonna be better than yesterday. We're gonna blow our hearts up. We're gonna make our legs burn. We're gonna make our legs burn. But but we're gonna be better than yesterday. So
100%.
Shannon, you rock. Hey, for those of you who want to check out Shannon Rogers on Instagram, she is incredible. I can't even begin to tell you. And Shannon, I'll do you an injustice by trying to describe what it is that you do. But
Well, what's her IG?
Shannon, what's your IG? Throw it out there. I think it's just Shannon Rogers. But she does all kinds of individual holistic healing, a holistic approach. Whether it's improving your archery game, your golf game, whether it's just improving your outlook on life, and just getting in touch with yourself. Really, Shannon has dedicated her life to making individuals better, in a very personal and individual way. Heck, I knew her all the way back in since 2021, 2001, I think. There it is, Shannon Rogers, Shannon Lynn Rogers. She's incredible. Check her out. Check out her Instagram. Um, she is a true student in her field, and travels all over to do different things. A rock star in just promoting individual mental, physical, spiritual health. I guess that's the best way to put it. So she's done a lot for me. Remains a friend of mine. So anyway, there you go. There, it's up. Shannon Lynn Rogers, at Shannon Lynn Rogers. But Yeah. If you're interested in a shirt or a series of shirts, we'll talk about it. Totally customizable. That's why there's not a big. That was one of the reasons why we didn't do the web page, because so many things are customizable. People like different prints and different areas and different things, and um, it just, I don't know. I became task saturated, especially with all the archery that's going on in my world and coaching and trying to, and that's another thing. We didn't even get into that. I mean, why did I start coaching? Here I am. I'm sitting out there at the archery field and, shooting and shooting and shooting and doing well. But what I realized when I was at Walter Reed is like, hey, I'm getting away from the hospital and I'm taking on the drama of life. 4 days after I lost, or my right leg was amputated, 3 days after my left, actually 2 days after my left leg was amputated, I'm on the archery range. And not because it didn't hurt, but because it allowed me to focus on something else than right now, and the fact that I'm now a double amputee, or I'm a single amputee, or it hurts so bad that I can't hang my legs off the edge of the bed for 20 seconds. I had to have a doctor help me put my legs back up. I mean, I, those 4 years at Walter Reed were truly humbling and life changing. But I became a coach because I realized that while I was out there at the archery range, I'm focused on something else besides the current drama in my life. And it was therapeutic. And I was getting away from the hospital, and I was getting away from the doctors, and I was, integrating with people that I would never have contact with before, other than we have a passion for archery. And before I knew it, I was making friends and developing relationships and shooting my bow and getting better. And it was all based around this crazy little sport of archery. And before I knew it, it felt like I could breathe better. Um, and I said, if this is doing all this craziness for me, how do I help other guys? And initially, I would just use my rank as a Marine major, and I'd be like, "Hey, Marine," or "Hey, sailor, what are you doing?" or "Hey, soldier, what are you doing this afternoon?" "Oh, sir, I was probably going to go back to my room and play Xbox and whatever, goof off." All right, well, at 1300, that's 1 o'clock for civilians. But at 1300, meet me back down here in the lobby. We're going to go to the archery range, and they'd be like, "Well, sir, I don't have any archery equipment." And I'd be like, "Hey, I don't remember asking you if you had archery equipment. I just remember telling you, meet me here." And I would just drag guys to the archery range, and there was there plenty of equipment to be had, and I had a coach, and we would get together, and before you knew it, here's guys that are competing at Warrior Games, guys that were competing at Invictus Games and doing quite well, and there's guys. In fact, the guy spent the weekend at my house, um, who I met at Walter Reed and got into archery and was shooting at Warrior Games. Just lifelong friends now because of this crazy sport. So I don't know. More tangents, more stories. You think 4 hours is a record? We could talk for 24 hours.
We definitely could, but at the same time, you know, you reinforce exactly what we have always been about, and the reason why I got saddled with my four horsemen, Brian Spittler from Apex Auto Detailing, uh, uh, Eric Pickeroo from Papa Smurf 918 Detailing, Brian Webster Fab Automotive Detailing, and Phil Miranda from Miranda Detailing. Um, every one of those guys um, exemplifies exactly what you just said, and that the community is so much bigger than the individual, and the willingness and desire to share that information with other people and to make the community just better off from being able to share your experiences, share your knowledge base, and that we're not in this community by ourselves. It's so much bigger than the individual, and that's what makes us strong. And I one of the little tags that I put on a lot of my Instagram posts is "Together we are mighty," and together we are mighty. It's bigger than Phoenix. It's bigger than Internally Compelled. It's bigger than Major Trainwreck. It's bigger than Papa Smurf. It's bigger than Apex. It's bigger than Miranda. It's bigger than Fab.
Wait. Did you say bigger than Major Trainwreck?
Yeah, I did. I
That's
did say that. But at the same time, being the pillar that you are, the beacon that you are, the inspiration that you are, um, that although it's bigger than you, um, you're vital. You are a vital part of that community. Without you, we are lessened. Um, like there's no way around it. Like I'm not trying to flatter you. I'm not trying I'm not trying to blow smoke. I'm telling you that you are and always have been a force of nature, um, for the better of those around you, for the better of those that interact with you. Um, I don't think that um, I don't think that I think there are very few people that encounter you that aren't bettered by you. Um, and I think that that applies to everybody in my stratosphere. I hope that the people that encounter me, I hope the people that encounter Phoenix are bettered by that encounter. I think that the people that encounter my four horsemen are bettered by their encounter with them. I think the people that encounter you are bettered by their encounter with you. And, you know, I think that means a lot as far as, the legacy that you leave behind, the impact that you have on the world around you. And if we can even just one person impact for the better, then we have accomplished why we are here, the purpose that we are. Maybe Phoenix isn't, the biggest and greatest company on the planet, uh, but we are a force of good. And if we never become, you know, wealthy by society's standards, I think that we are wealthy, in the community that we have helped cultivate. Um, Dad came to visit a couple of weeks ago, and he was sitting here in the office, and I was so proud. I was so proud to show him what we've accomplished here. Um, I think the first time in my life, in 5 decades worth of life, it was one of my proudest moments was to show him what we've accomplished here. And I said to him, "Dad, I always felt that out of the entire family tree, from astronaut Andrew to whatever, it doesn't matter. Um, I said, I've always felt that I was the least successful out of the entire family tree, and that Phoenix was the first time that I think that I've arrived at something worthy of our family tree." And he looked at me and he was just like, based on whose standards?
Yeah, exactly.
Based on whose standards are you making that statement? And I was like, well, maybe from a wealth point of view. And he was like, man, there is so many things more important than wealth. And I reflected on that for the last 3 weeks. I've reflected on that, and he's absolutely right. And to be a part of this community, to be a part of this, like whatever, I maybe once a month, maybe, I think July we're doing 3 live streams this month. Um, he's absolutely right. And the emails that I get and the direct messages that I get, we have Hawaii Tim, that we affect, because there's a couple of Tims in our stratosphere. Hawaii Tim, as we affectionately, he flew in on the red eye with his daughter that could care less about details. Flew in on the red eye to go to the Southern Detailers Conference just to meet Phoenix and the Four Horsemen. That's so huge. It's so huge.
Huge.
So I'm honestly, I'm just honored to be here. I'm honored to be here. And
Well,
until I'm no longer in charge,
let me throw this out. I'm picking up the
this is
microphone
going to
again
happen.
for the second time this thing. And I just want to tell you, you know, when we're going through the garbage of life, you know, oftentimes we don't understand, and I certainly didn't understand what God was prepping me for or changing me for. Because I mean, if you would have talked to me the day before the crash and said, "Hey, what are you going to be doing in 5 years?" I'd be like, "Well, I'd probably be thinking about retiring, because I'll have completed my squadron command, and I would have done this, and I would have done that, and and then it'd be like, what am I going to do afterwards, and all this crazy stuff, you know." But it was obviously that God had a different plan for me, you know. And I would say the same thing kind of applies to you, Aaron. I'm the least successful, blah 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 blah, whatever. You know, God had to take you through a course of events and a series of things that have made you into the man that you are today. And part of that might have been squatting in some shitty little apartment. And I remember you telling me about that, and I was really pissed because you didn't tell me when you were doing it, because I'd have sent you some money and all this other crap. But anyway, but that was a period in your life that God needed you to go through, because it gave you a perspective, and whether it was a divorce or just drama with life, or Rutgers University, or working with those idiots at some of the other company that you worked for a while, or working on an ambulance, or the thousand effing things that you did and suffered through and worked through, for whatever reason, you've come out the backside of all of that BS. And you're Aaron Burkett, Phoenix E.O.D. You're Aaron Burkett with all this list of people that have said, "Hey, look at me." Not saying look at me, but they're saying, "Hey, I'm part of this family, and you rock, and I love you, and I love your product, and I'm here to support you, and I'm going to tell these other people that I support you, and I'm going to get on the doggone computer here on a Sunday night when I've got time for everybody else, because of you." And that's a process that God had to work you through. All the craziness, all the silliness, all the pain, all the suffering, all the crummy vehicles that you drove, to the point that like the tires fell off and the transmissions fell out, all those things. And here you are having a podcast in your office, a live stream in your office, right outside the factory, a Phoenix E.O.D. that got a jam-packed warehouse. I mean, seriously, dude, kiss my ass if you think God had a plan for you with all the crap that you went through to bring you where you are today. And I will guarantee you it's only going to get better because of the man that you are and what Phoenix E.O.D. is and all that they will become. You can kiss my ass. I'll kiss my own ass if that's not the case.
That's fair. But to piggyback onto that, I can't do it without you guys. So you have a point, and everything you said, you have a point.
That are detailing cars, and they're working their butts off, trying to get their customers happy, lean on Phoenix E.O.D. because they know that it doesn't matter what day of the week they get their product shipped to them on. It doesn't matter what UPS or FedEx or whoever is delivering it does. They're going to get the same product day in and day out, and it's going to be the best quality Phoenix E.O.D. product. It's going to be the best detailing product out there on the market for the absolute ridiculous price. I've told you before, I think you should raise your price. I know your customers are going to hate me, but I know you won't do it because you love them. But guess what? They trust you. They trust that.
Trust me.
Not some of these other companies that like they don't know. Like one day, hey, this product really shines up nice. Then I'm like, dude, I got the same stuff from the same people a week later, and I can't get it to buff, or I can't get it to do this, or why is it not foaming the way it was supposed to? Or, yeah, it's because it's garbage, because it doesn't have Aaron Burkett's name behind every Phoenix E.O.D. sticker that goes out the door from your shop. And I tell you what, you didn't get here the same asshole that you were when you graduated from Nishannick High School. Tell me that, because I know the clowns that you used to hang out with. All right, no, it took a whole lot of garbage. It took a whole lot of pain. It took a whole lot of grinding. It took a whole metamorphosis that happened in your brain to turn you into the man you are today, to run Phoenix E.O.D the way it is. So stay the course, baby. Head up, stay the course, do what's right when it's hard to do, and you'll be surprised what happens. Too easy.
Thank you. Thank you. That's it's incredibly nice of you to say. I remember I was working back at the
Is anybody going to ask any questions, by the way? I can't remember.
The only question was that I saw was about your website not working.
Oh,
but
yeah,
you addressed it.
Because I suck.
Oh, wait, here's another question from Keith Firebird. So more Trainwreck stories next week. It looks like they want you to be a staple on the show. You know, January is pretty filled up. I think next week we have Mike from Big Mike's Bike Detailing. He's got a big bike show coming up that I want to help promote, which is why I have him on the show next Sunday. Same time, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific.
Was there something specific? Hey, Keith, is there something specific that you're interested in?
All of your stories.
I just want to hear you run my suckle.
Yeah, all of your stories are just gold, dude. Like, you know, I let this guy punch me in the head until it split open. And then they decided to take these butterfly bandages and just stick it all over my face. People like to hear those stories, you psycho.
This is Sparta. Don't forget it. But what am I going to do? Am I going to let a guy backtalk, badmouth the Marine Corps or pick on one of my friends? No. I actually gave him the opportunity to prove his point. So piss on him. Sorry you got kicked out of the bar, you tool. So you don't know how to throw a proper punch.
I mean, come on. He's throwing a punch against a psychopath. It's not going to ring home.
Keith
all
says,
of the ones you didn't have time to tell tonight. There you go. That's what he wants to hear.
Keith, that's
and it's amazing because as we've gotten older, and I think as father has gotten older, he's gotten a lot looser about the stories that he tells. And I mean, Keith is 100% right. I could sit at Dad's feet and let him just tell me stories upon stories of all the squadron things that he's done. It's just some terrifying moments of near-death experiences in the aircraft. Yeah, like there are no stories like the stories of Marines doing what Marines do. It's hands down. I mean, it's.
You should ask me the story of how I met the co-pilot that I was flying with on that day that we crashed. That's a good story. Keith, you want to know that story?
We all want to know that story.
The guy did like a girl.
Just for the record, we have reached the 2-hour mark. It is 10 p.m. on the East Coast.
That's 3 hour, baby. That's 3.
Is it 3 hours?
Yeah, we started at 7.
7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10. Yeah, 3 hours. So we've hit the 3-hour mark. Those that need to go obviously are absolved of any obligations to be here. Eric, I know that you said you had events in the morning that you need to attend to. So if you need to bail out, now's the time to do it.
We haven't talked about my issue with general officers. Totally skipped over that.
What?
What's that?
I said what?
We
have a problem with generals?
We only had. Oh, dude, you don't even know. We didn't talk about some of the cooler missions that I did in Afghanistan or Iraq, for that matter.
Well, why don't we leave something for the next time? Like you had said earlier when we were talking about.
I'll leave it to your followers to put pressure on you if to bring.
No, it doesn't matter. So
if they're not interested. I'll be
no. I'm in charge here. All right, I'm the general in charge here. What I'm saying is, You wanted to talk. We had talked about this pregame. We talked about you doing what you're doing right now, and then um, on the other side of August, after you've competed, you are going to talk about how well you did, and we can follow up with
Yeah,
all
we
these
can still
stories.
do that, and I'll
We're
still tell
going to
you
still
how
do that because
I stopped
you
fumbles and
have like
but
you're wearing that Phoenix jersey, and that Phoenix jersey, as sexy as it is not a fourth place jersey. So
well, it's certainly not a second place jersey, so I'm not going to sit here until we've reached the 4 hour mark.
no, you're not.
One
It's not
hundred
happening. It's not
horsemen
happening.
packing in.
It's not happening. I still have a 40-minute drive home. Point of the story is that we will finish all of these conversations and these stories in part 2 of the Trainwreck episode that happens at the end of August. After you've competed and you've won all of your national tournaments and you've won everything that you need to win, nothing but winning in that jersey. So at the 3 hour
He's
mark,
just keeping us on point. First from Puerto Rico is keeping us on point. What's this new one?
what?
Papa Smurf is still in the pool? Dude, he was on the pool before we even started.
I'm pretty sure at this point Papa Smurf is on the floor.
He's got to be.
Dude, he was
He's having a
hammered.
liver
He
transplant.
was hammered, like completely hammered before the episode even started. Like I texted him and I was like, "Hey, you're a moderator for my channel, right? So if anybody gets out of hand or if there's somebody that is being inappropriate, you need to kick them out because I'm going to be paying attention to other things." And he called me and he was like, "Hey, man."
Yeah, I heard. Remember? We were still
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I had him on speakerphone.
like,
Hey, I listen, so what had happened was it's just all right, you're drunk, you're absolved of all your sins. Get it. So anyway,
hey, when do
you
I
got
get to meet Keith Firebird?
what?
I need to meet Keith Firebird. I like him.
Dude, Keith is awesome. Not only that, but he also pretty much wins all of my trivia questions. The dude is on point. He knows Phoenix history better than anybody. He's a solid dude. He's been a big follower and a big fan of the show, and a great um, a great member of the Phoenix family. But that being said, it is we're going on 3 hours and 7 minutes, going on 10 minutes by the time we get out of here.
Still got some
Uh,
apple juice left.
dude, I have almost a full bottle of apple juice left,
Weak
and
sauce.
dude, I'm
Weak
still, dude,
sauce.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. I'm gonna have to take a nap before I go home. Anyway, Curmudgeon's Corner 11 officially in the
He
books.
learned how to drink from the Air Force.
Whatever. As he says, as he drinks from his home office, where he can just roll himself into the next room and take a nap. So,
Literally roll. Why? Because I don't have legs. Thanks for that.
yeah, let's rewind this story real fast. The greatest thing ever, so when my wife met you for the first time, you were in your hospital bed shortly thereafter the accident. I had met Kim in 2011. You had your accident in 2012. I brought her with me to meet you. Um, she could not understand our relationship. Like she was almost aghast of just like of our relationship. The very first day after after your amputations.
Have you tried peanut butter?
No,
Apple,
it sounds horrible. Peanut butter and bourbon? Go away.
apple juice.
Go
Peanut
eat,
butter,
or
apple
yeah, peanut butter and apple juice. Go eat a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Anyway, so you just had your amputation, and I had walked into the room, and I said, "Hey, who do I have to talk to get a leg up around here?" She was mortified, and when she met you, you said to her, I don't know if you remember this because you were pretty stoned. You said to her, what do you have a low self-esteem? And and she was like, how does he know that about me? And she didn't realize that you were saying, like, you have to have such a low self-esteem to hang out with my brother. And then once you explained that to her, she was she, so taken aback by our level that we have. And then after you got your second amputation, I remember walking into your room and I said, finally, the entire world is going to know what I've known all along. You are half the man that I am.
You're such a bitch.
She died. She had. How can you say something?
Hey, I just want you to know there is a
Oh,
hard
gosh.
hitting reality when you wake up after a surgery and you look down and there's no toes sticking up under the sheets, under the blankets.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But
Yeah.
okay, if being physically half the man is of you is, something to be proud of, okay. Giddy up.
Is that how you're going to spin it?
That's how I'm gonna spin
Is that how you're going to spin it? That's fine. But I think it's that dark humor that keeps us going.
That's
I
another thing.
think
We didn't talk about the different categories of amputations at Walter Reed. We didn't talk about any of the rehab. We didn't talk about like true studs like Travis Mills. There's, dude, we got like 15 more different Phoenix E.O.D.
okay.
podcasts.
Hey, listen, you are an inspiration to me. So you can come on the show as often or as little as you want. You are always welcome here. And clearly, um, by the comments, you're a fan favorite. So I'd love to have you back on the show.
As
And
far as internally compelled's concerned. So
we're going to have you on the show on the other side of August, so we can do a review of your performance. So I expect nothing but spiders, and if shoot anything less than that, we're going to call you out onto the floor.
I
So
hope so.
that being said, 3 hours 15 minutes. We are done. Thank you so much, Eric, for being a part of the show.
You have
I
to
look
pay.
forward. I look forward to having you on Curmudgeon's Corner again here very shortly. Probably like within the next month, you'll be on the show again. And we'll be on the other side of this. And I know everybody here is going to want to hear more stories about you getting drunk and getting the side of your head caved in. So
He broke
that
it.
means that
He broke
what?
the side of my head is fine. Totally fine. It was his hand that broke.
Yeah, but oh, look at the scar.
Oh, look at that. We need Eric to beat the 4-hour Smurf record. What's up with that, homie?
Yeah, it's not going to happen. But I'll tell you what. In August, if you want to go for the 4-hour record and you don't have anything planned the next day, or because I specifically asked you, do you want to go for the record? And you're like, oh, I got things to
No,
do
let's go for the
before.
record, baby.
I
We only
can't
have
do
5
it.
minutes. You know what? I'll skip chest day and I'll do leg day for you tomorrow at 07 in the gym. I'll post it on Instagram. All your followers can check it out, and I can ask you what's your excuse again.
Well, all right. So you called me out. I'm going to just say it. I don't want to talk to you for 4 hours. I can barely stand you as it is. So,
Again, integrity is important. So good job.
you're such a dick. Oh gosh. All right. Listen, I'm wrapping this up. Hey D, thanks for coming back. Appreciate it. Keith Firebird, you're absolutely welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to be a part of this. Um, we're gonna do an entire. I'm just gonna let you talk. I'm just gonna the next time, since we don't have to do a Batman origin story. I'm just gonna
Well,
let you
hey, how
talk.
about this? How about you just tell all your followers, come with questions, come with questions, and I will answer them. Really, whether it's a hard question, and
Look
really,
at this.
there's nothing that's on
Look
the
at
table.
this crap. Look at this crap. Look what just happened. I spent 2 years building this, and
Inappropriate
and
there.
they're like, "Oh, we love Eric." This is just like high school all over again. I hate you, and I wish that
Come
you
on,
were never
Brian.
born.
Help me
Yeah.
out, Brian.
Nope. Suck it. All right. Yeah. Great.
Hey, Dee Dee's back from Texas.
Yeah.
So, hey, I'll tell you this. I think you have a great following, Aaron. It's been an absolute honor. I've had a blast. Shoot, we talk about high school. I can't imagine, like, if you'd asked me in high school if I'd, you know, be still hanging out with you. I mean, the rule was, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but
Oh, I remember.
the rule
No
was
one's allowed to kick my brother's ass but me. Right? That's
no
what you're
one,
about to
no
say?
one, no one touches my brother but me.
Yeah.
No one touches my brother but me. But and as much as that was true, and you can ask plenty of people, including some of my very close friends, that was the rule. But if you would have asked me, if, I would be doing something that would support you, or be on, podcasts weren't a thing, streaming wasn't a thing, all that stuff. I'd have been like, you're high. But here we are. I'm 51. You're 49. We're doing our own things in life, and I'll tell you that for 100% certainty, neither one of us expected us to be where we are right now today. You know, me shooting my bow, and coaching and doing, what some would consider just like a crazy lifestyle, and you running your own business and slaying it. People, I would say, if you had asked like Mr. Craig or what was his name? Chuck Winters, the principal of Quantico High School. What would Aaron and Eric Burkett be doing today? None of them would have been anywhere close to it. I would be ventured to say if Chuck Winters didn't say, well, Trainwreck or Eric would be dead, and who knows what Aaron will be doing. But I mean, here we are. Here we are. Praise the Lord.
The day that my dad almost destroyed Chuck Winters physically, that's a story for next time. That's a great story. As a matter of fact, I brought it up with dad. I was like, the day that you went after my principal and pulled him over the desk.
He was an
Wow.
ass. He was an ass.
He was an ass clown, but I remember, like, again, one of those Hollywood moments where it was Aaron, go wait at the truck. It was like that. Aaron, go wait at the truck. And the next thing
Yeah,
I
and it
know,
was like, do I question that? No, I just get up and I go right to the truck. I go to the
yeah,
truck and
it
sit there.
just went to the truck. And as I'm leaving, like I hear what is happening behind me and I don't look back. That's a great story for next time. Eric, you're right.
You got to
You're
pee.
100%
You must
right.
have to pee.
What?
You have to pee, don't you?
No. Why?
Is that why you're trying to get off the air so quick?
No, I'm trying to get off the air because it's an hour and 3 hours and 18 minutes long, and these people, um, I mean, we could go on forever. I still got 40 minutes to drive home, bro. Yeah, whatever. Hey, Fab's in the house. Horseman number 3. Blop, blop, blop. And the reason why I always put those horsemen in that particular order is the reason why, or I should say, the reason why I put those horsemen in that particular order is the way that you would apply the products. You would first wash the car, horseman number 1. Then you would compound the car, horseman number 2. Then you would polish the car, horseman number 3. And then you would wax the car, horseman number 4. So it's not like seniority or popularity or any of the other silliness. It is in the order that you would use the products. And that is how the horsemen were created. So, everybody, thank you for your support. I absolutely love everyone here. The community is absolutely amazing.
Hey,
Thank you
Keith,
so
I
much.
just want to say I agree with you. He is wearing a diaper tonight. I don't know what's going on, but
What?
check out Keith's last poster.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
You're wearing a diaper because
So
you're
what? I
little,
don't care. I don't care.
little biatch.
Anyway, the best products smell like cherry Pepsi. The best products smell like cherry, period. Pepsi is just disgusting, but we all know what's up. Anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. It's been absolutely fantastic. Curmudgeon's Corner 11. Tune in next month for Curmudgeon Corner, whatever we're up to at that point, for the return of Trainwreck. Make sure you follow him on Instagram, follow his company, Internally Compelled. I just really appreciate everybody for coming out and being a part of this. Thank you. And we'll catch you at the next episode next Sunday at 7 p.m. Big Mike's bike detailing. It's going to be fun. Hopefully he'll bring his wife. She is a fireball. Everybody, until then, stay safe, be good, and be kind.
At MajorTrainwreck.com.
What?
At MajorTrainwreck.
At MajorTrainwreck.com. Blue.